Clearly.
Right. Going to call the city council meeting for Tuesday, April 7th for the city of Lake Elmo to order. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an agenda in front of us. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is presented unless somebody has something different.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved as presented. So then next we have approval of minutes. I do have a correction on the 3/3/26 city council meeting, as it states that Charles Caden had pulled the meeting to order, but I was not present, so if we could get that corrected to Jeff Holtz, that would be wonderful. Other than that change, I don't have anything else. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from 3/3 and 3/17 as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes as indicated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Do we have anybody this evening for public comments?
No, we do not.
We do not have anybody? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, which is approved payments and disbursements, approved Arbor Day proclamation, approved Lake Elmo Lake Association grant application 2025, approved 2026 Washington County recycling grant, approved special event permit for the 4th of July parade, denial of special event permit at 12058 55th Street North, adopt resolution establishing polling locations, authorize design services for the Elmo's Pup Park parking lot improvements, approve farm lease for city-owned 76 acres, approve fire captain job description, approve special projects manager employment agreement, approve lawn mowing contract for 2026 to 2028, approve public works purchase of the 2026 utility pickup, accept improvements and approve pay request number 19 for the water tower number 3 project. And that is what I have on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda is hereby approved. Thank you. First item on the regular agenda, preliminary plat and open space planned unit development, Granvia Preserve. Ms. Jensen presenting.
Thank you, Mayor. So the applicant for tonight's application is Twin Cities Land Development. The property owner is Landucci Homes. The property is comprised of 3 PIDs at just over 110 acres. It is currently zoned rural residential. The proposed zoning with this development is OP-PUD. It is guided in the city's comp plan as rural area development. The request before you tonight is a 58-unit, single-family detached project with a gross density of 0.53 units per acre. In the land use applications before you are a prelim plat and the OP-PUD. So the image on the slide shows the site context. The project is north of 50th Street, Tana, and Fields of St. Croix neighborhoods, south of Highway 36 and Sanctuary, and west of Stillwater Area High School and Carriage Station. And then just a fun fact for you, the last OP-PUD the city approved was in 2006. So it's been a while since we've seen this type of development. So this slide shows the zoning and future land use of the property. Again, it's zoned rural residential and guided in the comp plan as rural area development. OPPUD is an anticipated use in both of these categories. So this slide has the development layout. Again, it's 58 units. There's one cul-de-sac and one full street connection. The community septic is shown in orange. The bituminous trail is shown in yellow, which runs north-south of the development. And there would be a connection to city water. So when reviewing a prelim plat, staff is looking at zoning and land use, bulk standards, tree preservation and landscaping, grading, stormwater and wetland impacts, public infrastructure, and parkland dedication. And building off of that, for OPPUD specifically, there are 3 additional minimum requirements that are needed. First is related to zoning, second is to lot size, and third is to ownership. All 3 of those are met with this proposal. Staff also finds that the OPPUD objective is met with this project, which is essentially providing greater development flexibility in rural areas of the city in exchange for maintaining that rural character and open space. So staff has also reviewed applicable performance standards and find that density is met, lot design and setbacks are met. OPPUD specifically has a 100-foot buffer around the perimeter of the project area, which is met here. Streets are met, preserved open space is met. The developer is proposing to preserve 55% open space on the project area, where city code requires 50%. The septic design requirements will be met as they move into final plat and conduct that final testing. It's expected that the community septic will work out and get permitted accordingly. Building standards, the applicant is requesting a 60% garage facade deviation, which city code requires 40% of that linear frontage to be garage. They're going up to 60%. So a deviation is requested. I'll get into that with my next slide. Landscape standards, the requirements will be met. So they do have some revisions outlined in the landscape architect memo. They need to address those. They're not requesting any PUD flexibilities though. Impervious surface standards, so they are requesting a 40% deviation, so up to 40% impervious surface per lot. City code requires up to 30% per lot. So there's a 10% switch there. And then trail and sidewalk standards, they are proposing a bituminous sidewalk in front of the homes where typically it's that traditional 6-foot concrete sidewalk. So I'll get into those PUD flexibilities. Again, there are only 3 PUD flexibilities with this project. All other items and aspects of the project will be met as it moves into final plat. The first is related to architectural standards, so that garage facade. The applicant is requesting this to meet the residents' expectations of interior storage and functionality of the home. Essentially, a 60% garage facade would be like a 3-car garage. So staff finds this request reasonable. The second item is the concrete versus bituminous sidewalk that will run in front of the homes. The applicant is requesting this for a contiguous trail system throughout the development and to allow for a wider section for walkers and bikers to utilize. The applicant is also proposing the HOA would maintain these facilities moving into the future. So staff finds that request reasonable. The last one is 30 versus 40% impervious surface on a per lot basis. This would be a blanket approval. The reason for this request is due to the unique lot shapes and the amenities that the residents would expect in this development. Across the entire development, if all the lots were to be built out at that maximum of 40%, the whole project area would only be 19%, just for reference. So staff finds that request reasonable also. Other items to highlight for this project include landscaping and tree preservation. So again, there are revisions that need to be made based on that LA memo. The landscape architect has also provided comments and consideration for the developer to look at that northernmost property line and their removals that they're proposing to try to preserve some trees and maintain that natural screening buffer. Wetlands, there are 13 wetlands on the site. The applicant is proposing to remove 2 of those wetlands. They're also proposing wetland buffer averaging to ensure those wetlands maintain on the open space lots rather than the residential lots. And they would be installing wetland buffer signage. Looking at traffic access and parking, so 50th Street is a collector street, so it is designed to carry a large volume of traffic. There would be turn lanes proposed with this development. They would also be proposing to do a pedestrian crossing to build out that trail segment along 50th Street. So instead of building a trail along the full northern property line and impacting a wetland, they'd cross over and continue on that Tanner Ridge trail that's already built. Within the development, the streets would be parking on one side, and off-street parking requirements would be met with the garage and the driveway. The development is proposing to utilize stormwater reuse, and then that would have a backup connection to city water, which is our city standard. At the Planning Commission meeting, there was a bit of discussion on landscaping in general, so I added these slides for reference. The image on the left shows the removals with those red dots, mostly focused in the north and central areas of the property. The image on the right shows landscape additions, mainly focusing on the street and trail. So we can circle back if there's any questions on that one. This project went to the Parks Commission with the prior developer in 2024. Hidden Knoll Park is a park that was built in the sanctuary neighborhood adjacent to this project in the northwest corner. And there are 3 possible trail connections with this project. The first is to that public city park, Hidden Knoll Park. Second is 50th Street, building out that connection. And the last one would be to Tamarack Farms if that neighborhood trail were to be constructed in the future. So the Parks Commission recommended cash in lieu with up to 25% trail credit for those 3 connections I just listed. So this application was sent out for agency review, and conditions of approval have been added where applicable. The fire memo addresses emergency access, signage, hydrants, addressing, and street naming. The Valley Branch Watershed District has indicated that a permit would be needed for this project. The landscape architect memo indicates revisions and modifications that are needed before it's compliant with city standards. And the engineering memo is generally recommending approval subject to revisions of the plan sets. So a public hearing notice was mailed to property owners within 500 feet, since that is our new standard, on February 23rd, and published in the paper on February 27th. We received a written comment from Mark Sitze within Carriage Station, commenting and requesting trees along the Carriage Station property line, and then also suggesting species that could be installed there. Nathan Campbell is with the Tamarack Farms HOA. He provided consolidated HOA written comments in support of the open space design and added considerations for 50th Street, traffic, vegetative screening, future trail connections, crosswalk, their development's private park area, and sewer and water. He also spoke at the public hearing reiterating the HOA comments and traffic and safety concerns. Neil Krieger spoke at the public hearing commenting on the scenic beauty of the parcel and family history in the area and requested preservation of the Tamarack Bog. And Danny Hecker spoke at the hearing in favor of the development and requested additional landscaping around his property line. So the Planning Commission reviewed this at their March 9th meeting. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of the request with the recommended findings and conditions, with the criteria that the developer remove the flexibility for the bituminous trail and replace it with our traditional concrete sidewalk, and that the developer call out the exact lots that need that 40% impervious surface flexibility. That vote was 6-0. Unpacking that, staff has reviewed the Planning Commission recommendation, and impervious surface, that request may create enforcement issues down the road, as the developer is not the builder, so they may not be able to accurately identify all the lots that need this flexibility, again, because they're not the builder and we don't have the home designs at this time. This also may create confusion and complaints down the road if there are different standards for the same lot type as residents add improvements in the future. So if a resident were to be at 30% and both their neighbors would be at 40%, I would expect them to have some questions as they maybe put a patio in the future. The OP PUD code was amended in 2024. Part of that was updating impervious surface to be considered on a per lot basis as opposed to the entire development. The proposed development, again, meets that previous standard, which was 25% for the entire project area. This was changed on a per lot basis because it's difficult to review 5, 10, 15 years after a development's approved if it's 25% of the whole project area. Staff finds the Planning Commission's recommendation on the concrete sidewalk to be consistent with other developments. They are providing an adequate amount of bituminous trail and a 6-foot wide sidewalk may also reduce the impervious surface. So staff is recommending 5 findings of fact. The first is related to consistency with the 2040 comp plan. Second is compliance with the subdivision regulations. Third is that it meets the zoning requirements except for where OP/PUD flexibility is provided. Fourth is that it meets our design standards. And fifth is that it meets those OP minimum requirements. And staff is recommending 14 conditions of approval, most of which are standards such as addressing those review memos, entering into the necessary agreements, paying the fees, permits, and future reviews. Unique for this project are conditions related to stormwater reuse, community septic approvals, and the wetland buffer signage. So there are 3 motions before you. I can stand for any questions, and we do have the developer here tonight.
Questions for Ms. Jensen? Councilmember Dragisich.
So is the recommendation for the concrete sidewalks, is that what we're looking at? It was kind of confusing to me.
Staff is maintaining the same recommendation of approving all 3 of the flexibilities. The planning commission requested that only the garage facade be an approved PUD flexibility.
So we're going to have concrete walks,
You'd have bituminous sidewalk in front of the homes.
to the sidewalk,
Correct. That's the PUD flexibility they're requesting.
okay? One of the things with bituminous sidewalks is they're generally not constructed to the same standards as the concrete sidewalks in terms of, they're usually fairly thin bituminous and you don't get the same life as you do out of a concrete walk. So do we have a standard they'd have to build those bituminous walks to, so they basically have the same life and strength as the concrete walk?
So the city standard for a bituminous walk, we're using this interchangeably with the trail standard, essentially. It's like a 3 inch thick mat of bituminous. Bituminous is a flexible material, so
Yep.
it's inherently different than concrete. As far as life cycle, they can be comparable, depending on use. I think we're supportive of the recommendation of the flexibility at this point.
My experience with them is oftentimes they tend to fail early.
So, as technologies and construction technology has improved over the years, I think we find that bituminous trails can be comparable to a life cycle of a concrete sidewalk. That's all I can say about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Can you talk to the subgrade underneath? I mean, the
Right.
toppings always looks nice, but the cake is really where it matters.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. So, yeah, well, as part of, the plan reviews that are ongoing, I think that, we can give consideration to making sure that it's built on solid ground, so to speak.
Yeah, well, just sometimes root intrusion, that they're not cut properly, sometimes you'll find the roots start intruding into it. That 3-inch mat creates problems down the road, so just some of those considerations, I think need to be addressed. Councilmember Holtz.
So based upon the feedback that was provided at the commission meeting, were any changes made in the developer's plan based upon that, such as landscaping in either location as additional privacy screening or certain types of landscaping based upon that feedback?
Not at this time, but I believe the landscape architect memos indicated they're missing quite a few trees, so they need to add them to the plan, and it would be fitting for them to add it in the spots that the residents requested.
It says, example, the feedback from Mr. Hecker for screening at the property. That would be one location where the landscape memo does kick in.
Correct.
And the,
Property on the west side of that?
yes.
Okay.
And then follow up then on the bituminous path, you mentioned that the HOA would then take ownership of maintenance for that. How would that work in terms of, do they send a contract to the city for perpetuity saying, yes, indeed, even though this is a sidewalk for purposes of our code, we are now obligating ourselves to maintenance and repair and to long-term, to snow removal because it's being treated as a sidewalk for purposes of our ordinance?
The HOA would maintain the sidewalk and the trail in perpetuity, so that includes clearing and maintenance.
Where would that be documented for then staff 20 years from now when you are all retired, I'm golfing somewhere, hopefully well, but what's gonna be that documentation to show, yes, by the way, they still are responsible?
I would anticipate it being the HOA declarations, and then we can also add it as a condition of final plat approval,
All right.
just
Wouldn't
to
that be
really
also in the
document it.
development agreement?
It should be in the DA, yeah, but
Correct, but after they're out of warranty and the development agreement is passed,
Okay,
people will probably refer back to the resolution.
got it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one other place that could be documented is, I think they do have to give us a separate trail easement, and we could put it in there.
All right,
That would
thank
be
you.
recorded.
can we put it in as many places as possible? Because again, none of us
I
are gonna be
agree.
here in a certain amount of time.
That changes my position. I was going to go along that there has to be some kind of maintenance agreement by them since it's bituminous, and
Yep.
thank you.
And so it's not just, when we say the word maintenance, we're talking, when the lifespan of it is up, it's on them to redo it, not just put the tar and paper down because there's a crack.
Correct.
All right.
And is it in the recommendation that we are going to a 40% impervious for all the lots? Or is the recommendation to do the 30 and 40?
It would be to do the full blanket 40%
Okay.
request.
Okay, great, thank you.
And to clarify, the proposal here is indeed for the trail connection in the northwest corner. Feedback was provided, you had mentioned, from the HOA to the east about that possible connection, but this doesn't include carrying out that connection.
No,
Okay.
Does it include carrying out the connection to the northwest?
into the city property?
Yeah.
No. So it would be the trail to bring you to the park, and then you'd most likely be on grass after that, unless the city were to add a trail within its park.
So let's play that out.
There is a trail within the carriage station to the park.
Within sanctuary?
Sanctuary, excuse me, yeah.
Correct.
Because you have it identified, that's where a trail could go, but they're not proposing to put it in.
Not beyond their project boundaries, correct.
So then, a person would then get off their bike, and at this point, the southern corner of that is, youth fields. There's a couple small T-ball sized fields, slightly larger. For the city-owned property on that corner. Yep. Oh, no, correct, yes, yeah. From far away, it looked like that. Okay, so what would it, do we need to have a conversation as to what that looks like for, because that's not logistically the best way to bring people across. Here's your path that you're biking on or rollerblading, then suddenly, here's some grass.
I might be, well, that's for discussion, but yeah, I don't know.
Does staff have thoughts on that? As to, because it's a separate property, but it's a city-owned property. It's not as if what we had to deal with Legacy where it's, going onto another HOA's property. This is a city property. Are there solutions for that if we move forward with this proposal?
The city could use the park dedication funds received through the project minus the 25% for the trail connections, and they could roll that into improving Hidden Knoll Park if they wanted to.
If I may, that area is very, it's a pretty steep slope, so accessibility would probably be, ADA would not be very well. I mean, you have to zigzag back and forth or have a
Right.
different solution to go up that hill, and that might be one of the reasons why the developer might not be interested in connecting that.
In the Parks Commission, have they looked at some of the parks and maybe decommissioning it? I know that one's tucked back away, not visible from the street very well. Is that something the Parks Commission has looked at? Is that
When we
park
did
very well used?
Yeah, when we did review for our Parks Master Plan, that was one of the discussions that did come up. Again, this development wasn't being proposed at that time, but definitely that question was risen as far as areas that we do have parks, the use of them, possible decommission of them as well.
Yeah, that's, okay.
Yeah, it's almost a 30-foot hill.
Any further questions? Councilmember Hearn?
As far as the one comment from the HOA about the roadway as it enters onto 50th, is there any concern about their remarks as far as visibility, safety concerns? Was that looked at after that comment came in? And maybe if so, if you could just comment on that a little bit?
Yeah, so where it ties into 50th Street was a pre-set location based on feedback from engineering. And then also, there's wetlands in that area, so there's
You
only
set
so, yeah, so much room where that could go. We are still designing the pedestrian facilities, and so I think that is gonna be a main focus of safety, since that road does have a hill, and it is pretty fast traffic that moves there.
Okay, thank you.
Is the speed limit on the roadway 40 miles an hour?
Pretty sure it's 45.
I believe it's 40.
40?
Well, I guess I speed down it. There you go.
You admitted on
That's why we're
camera.
gonna do,
Thank you. Anything else? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve Resolution 2026-021, approving the preliminary plat and PUD requested by Twin Cities Land Development on the subject property based on the findings of fact and recommended conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Second.
So we have a motion, discussion.
Yep, I'll start. I mean, I think, just to start out with, it goes back to when we kind of looked at changing up some of the parameters for the OPPUD. I'm excited to see that this seems to have made it a possible option for developers, which is exciting to see this in the first place. I think the requests are reasonable. I was kind of going back and forth a little bit on the garage facade. I'm not the one selling the houses. They're the ones that have to sell it. They know the market better than I do. I guess my original thought was, there's room to expand. Do we need to allow this deviation? But if that's what they feel is what the market wants, then, they know it better than I do. So I'm fine with that. The impervious surface, again, even if you answered my question, because it was going to be, what was that 19% calculated based off? And that's if all of the property lots are at 40%. And so, if it's a 19% overall, we're accomplishing the objective of trying to keep that to a lower percentage and below the amount that we're aiming to hit. So fine with those. It sounds like the public hearing comments are being addressed. I would strongly really like to see that those trees do get put in positions to help, screen some of the areas where the surrounding neighborhoods had some concerns. Some of their other concerns, I don't know if I necessarily agree with. I think but I think the tree and some of the privacy can definitely be addressed. So I'd like to see that. And I can't even remember what the third one was. I'm blanking on it now. Condition of approval, or the third
bituminous trail.
variance. Which
Bituminous
yes.
trail.
With the clarification with them managing it, I'm fine with that. Especially just kind of in the setting that it's in. So I'm on board with this. I'm excited to see the OPPUDs coming in is an option here.
Yeah, Councilmember Hearn, I mean, you hit on a lot of things that I completely agree with. I know that the 40% impervious surface was something that came up. I completely agree with that as well, especially if it's only a 19% impervious surface for the entire lot. In worst case scenario, we'll put that in quotations. And I do have some concerns about, not concerns, but I wish it wasn't on a community septic, but that's neither here nor there, but I fully agree with all the, everything in the PUD though. Looks good.
Question, should that, what type of a flow did the developer indicate for their sanitary system?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm not exactly sure. It's somewhere in the design notes, but the system's sized per essentially city standards. You know, it's a private system being built within the public right-of-way and has to be built to the standard just in case the city's ever asked to take it over.
So I guess the point I'm getting to is we should make sure that whatever system's installed there, if that area needs to be bailed out as other septic systems have, that it has the ability to take it all the way from sanctuary. So I think we want to stay from the low flow system
Sure.
so that it can handle that. That would be my hope. Councilmember Holtz.
Ditto to the earlier comments, but something that we didn't mention is the fact that this does have the reuse for irrigation.
That's great.
And that is something, obviously, there's a need for it. There's a reason we have in our city standards to say how it is. But we have essentially required it for everything that's come along in the last couple of years, except for one instance where it literally was not logistically possible because of the parcel. So I appreciate that that is in there. That helps to reduce the per capita usage for our city, which is a priority that we do have. But yeah, I'm not going to add anything to all the other comments that I fully agree with.
All right. Given that, I'll call the question. All those in favor to approve resolution 2026-021, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution is approved.
Move to approve ordinance 2026-03 PUD ordinance, approving the request for Granvia Preserve based on the findings of fact and recommended conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Support.
So we have a motion and a second, basically approving the request based on the findings of fact and recommended conditions of approval in the staff report, which we've discussed. If nobody has any discussion points, I'll go ahead and call the question. All those in favor of approving ordinance 2026-03, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
Move to approve resolution 2026-022, approving a summary of publication for ordinance 2026-03.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'm gonna go ahead and, since the summary publication, we do need 4/5 vote on this. All those in favor of approving resolution 2026-022, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well done. City standards for water main. Mr. Stanley.
Mayor and Council, thank you very much. Public Works Director Dolan's gonna join me here. We worked on this together. There we go. So just to recap, at the February 17th City Council meeting, during the discussion for the High Point Crossing development, there was a request made by the developer to use an alternative material for water main. The city standard for water main is ductile iron pipe, and the developer was asking about potentially using PVC C900 pipe. PVC C900 is a pipe that's used for water main around our area, but in Lake Elmo, we have not used this in the past, and we haven't used plastic pipe in an open cut excavation installation scenario, which is what we'd be talking about with High Point Crossing. So, council directed staff to go back and look at potentially changing the city standard to PVC and what that would entail. So, We have done some research, we have spoken with colleagues, and we have a presentation tonight. There was a memo that I put together recapping our recommendation, and this presentation is essentially it just follows an outline of that memo. So we've got a number of things I want to talk about here. Feel free to jump in with questions as we're presenting. Pete is an excellent resource when it comes to operations and maintenance, having spent his entire career in it. So let's get started. What are the differences between ductile iron and PVC? One's metal, one's plastic. Okay. So, ductile iron is actually, it's an alloy. So remembering back to chemistry, what's an alloy? An alloy is several metals or materials that are part of a metal mixture. Makes it more resilient against certain forces and more desirable for the purpose it's intended to serve. Ductile iron is very cracking resistant. It's flexible, it bends. It has a high tensile strength, and by tensile, if you're bending like this on the bottom, that would be the force to resist breaking. Okay, it wants to hold together. The outside of the pipe it's black, it's coated with an asphaltic material, and that's to protect the metal from the effects of soil and moisture, as well as other things. And then the inside is actually lined with cement, and that's to serve as a non-corrosive surface for the water system. The life cycle of modern ductile iron pipe is anywhere between 75 and 100 years. And that's a pretty conservative estimate. Polyvinyl chloride, so that's PVC. It's a plastic polymer, so again, a polymer like an alloy is something that's got multiple components. It's actually comprised of, it's petroleum based, so it's petroleums and salts and other additives to give it the properties that, we want it to have for plumbing purposes. It has a high stiffness, it's lightweight, and it's corrosion proof, so it's non-reactive in the environment when it comes to rusting. It provides excellent hydraulic performance, and like ductile iron, it can last 75 to 100 years properly installed. So breaking it down to some of the factors associated with these materials, let's start with strength and pressure. Now I promise I got some pictures in here, it's not just, text on the screen, so.
Some of us need pictures for this stuff.
We'll get to a couple good ones. So ductile iron has an overburden strength of 30 to 40 feet. So that's basically how deep can the pipe be buried without having concerns of the forces above it crushing the pipe. It can actually be deeper than that. I focused this on kind of like the pipe applications that we would have in a local water main. It has excellent pressure capacity. This is kind of the key here though, is it's resistant in instances of poor soil support. So while we have standards for pipe installation and we ensure the contractor is doing it right, nothing's perfect. There can be something unforeseen, and then you're left with a system that needs to be able to, fight its own battles in some regard. It's also more resistant to freeze-thaw effects. So again, occasionally frost gets, deep enough, but what I'm talking about with freeze-thaw is mostly soil movement. This pipe is a more resilient piece of infrastructure that is more resistant to wanting to break or deform in the presence of moving soils. PVC has an overburden strength of not quite as much as ductile iron, and so in an instance of deep burial, we would probably have to look for, we'd probably have to go to ductile iron if we were using PVC. The pressure capacity is lower, but I just want to mention that we're never going to be operating at those pressure capacities. If we had 300 PSI in the local water system, something's wrong. So the thing to understand about PVC is that it's more reliant on installation. Kind of what I said about ductile iron is that it's a tougher material. It can kind of fight its own battles better. With PVC, you got to be more careful. You need proper compaction. You need proper encasement. if it's gonna make that 75 to 100 years that I talked about before. So I'm gonna get into some maintenance issues here and why they're, and Pete can help with why these are very important, but, so, locating pipe. As you're driving around the metro, you see folks out there doing this every day in, the spring, summer, and fall, It is a legal responsibility for a municipality to be able to do this in the instance of a Gopher State 1 call, so it's a big deal for us. Ductile iron is electrically conductive. When the pipes are pushed together in the hole and they make contact, that's one solid, that's continuous in the eyes of electricity. It will go right through those. And the standard for locating pipe is the electromagnetic locator. I have a picture here of a hydrant being hooked up to and a gentleman out there locating pipe. So PVC is non-conductive, so you have to install a trace wire with it. So this is kind of an illustration of what trace wire looks like. And so you got your pipe in the ground, but then you've got wire that has to run with it so you can locate it. And that can work just fine, but we talked about soil movement before. That can damage wires, sever wires, pull wires apart, more likely that are spliced. Wires can get nicked, wires can be damaged during backfilling, and it's just not quite as reliable as a continuous piece of infrastructure that's pushed together and has, strong joints and gaskets. Pete, is there anything else you want to add there?
No, that's my biggest concern is the tracer wire. I reached out to a bunch of my colleagues, 34 different people, and I got feedback from three other municipalities, unfortunately, out of those 34. And their biggest problem that they see is the tracer wire. What will happen over time with the ground moving, anybody doing an excavation, if someone gets disturbed, that wire breaking. Now we lost that continuity of being able to trace that pipe. That's been the biggest concern that they shared with me.
Slightly different application, but similar lesson up at where we just replaced our force main up at the I-94 force main lift station project we did last year. That pipe had been broken so many times that the trace wire had been lost, so it was very difficult for Public Works to go out there and locate that pipe. You can locate off records, but that's kind of a last resort when you're looking for something like a water main or a force main. Another big one for us is, we like to think everything's perfect, but we do spring leaks from time to time, water main breaks. So ductile iron is really less prone to leak upon installation than polyvinyl chloride. It has more robust joints, and it's, again, I'm gonna say things over and over here, it's more resistant to that ground movement. The thing is, if it does spring a leak, we have technology that can locate that leak pretty precisely. And that's by using ground microphones or correlators, because through ductile iron, leaking water produces an acoustic signature which can be picked up by this equipment. In plastic pipe, that does not exist. So if you do spring a leak, if we've detected water loss, Public Works has seen water loss, and we're in a plastic system, unfortunately, you just kind of have to keep your eyes peeled for holes to start developing or things to start washing out or water to come bubbling up. You can't go out and start looking for it. Anything to add there, Pete?
No.
Okay. So we estimate that approximately 70% of the city's water main system has been built out. That it might look a little deceptive on the picture, but keep in mind, you've got the Tri-Lakes area and the Park Reserve that are big chunks of land. So just looking at that, we've got pretty good coverage in town, and that's been with the city standard of ductile iron. It's been working great. Staff has great performance with it, and this pipe is young. This pipe is like a lot of it's less than 25 years old.
Right, am I to assume that the blue is ductile iron and the red is
The red is hydrants.
hydrants?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, yeah. So that's just general, I'm just trying to illustrate the amount of water main that's present. We've got a significantly built-out system. the city standard's been ductile iron, that's what we've been using. And in the absence of something really driving a change right now, we'd like to, we just think that should continue and be consistent, So let's talk about costs for a second. And I don't have any, I mean, I could have pulled some numbers up, but, I reviewed several, recent bids from 2024, 2025, 2026, some of them. And in general, PVC is about 15 to 20% less expensive to install per foot. That's taking into account things like, trace wire or wrapping, water main with plastic to protect it from hot soils and things like that. The one thing is, if you look back, you're always gonna see bids that kind of go up and down, just like we do with all materials. And, fuel prices, I mean, look what's going on in the world right now. Everybody's seeing like a fuel escalation price, in the contracting world. Material shortages, shipping interruptions, other things that can happen, all influence the price of construction in ways that we sometimes can't even see coming, So to change at a point when we're well on our way with one material just to another because it might be cheaper for a developer in the end, as opposed to the management and operation of the system, we think, we just want to note that we do acknowledge it's cheaper right now, but, we don't want to shortchange our system, our residents, our staff. That's all I got to say on cost. I don't have a picture, sorry. Corrosion resistance, we talked about how PVC is it's corrosion resistance, it's plastic. Ductile iron's protected to prevent it, but it can happen. And so it's often wrapped in polyethylene. And that's actually what we often do in Lake Elmo, where, especially if we're in an area where we have, we may be susceptible to hot soils. I will note that in looking back at projects over the last decade, pardon me, we haven't noticed any sort of big pockets of hot soils around town. It's just really not an issue. And we feel confident that we're not gonna have corrosion problems with DIP.
For those that may not know, could
Yeah,
you
I will.
explain
Yep.
hot soils?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Soils Engineer. When I use the term hot soils, that means a corrosive soil, so it's gonna be like, it's gonna have a pH that can affect, negatively affect, metallic material, essentially, And I just wanted to note one thing on cold weather performance, and this is a rarity, thankfully, but we have had pipe freeze in Lake Elmo. Folks have been out of water service for periods of time, and, when that happens in Minnesota, typically the way to get rid of that, or to unfreeze the pipe, is to put a charge on it. The electrical current runs down the pipe and it heats it, and it melts it, kind of from the inside out. With PVC, you can't do that. If we got frozen PVC, or even we have HDP in the system. If we had frozen HDP, we'd probably be in pretty big trouble. What has to happen is a hot water injection trying to circulate through the system. That can be difficult and it's risky because frozen plastic doesn't react the same way if you're dumping hot water in there. That metal does. It can be thermally shocked, which causes the pipe to crack. This is, I will admit, a little, this is kind of like a little bit of a stretch, but it's nonetheless is something that I want to bring to your attention because it has happened, and it may happen in the future. The other thing about injecting hot water into a system is that it does have to be, you're gonna have to disinfect and flush the system, So given that information, our recommendation is to not change the city standard and to have it remain ductile iron pipe. The in-place system's been performing well. System uniformity and the ability to reliably and accurately locate the pipe and leaks has significant value for operations and maintenance. And while PVC, again, may be currently less expensive from the viewpoint of Public Works Department as the owners and operators, the risks definitely outweigh any sort of short-term cost benefit, so.
Questions? Councilmember Holtz?
So on the front end, at least in 2025, PVC was cheaper. It actually, the price has gone up 60% in the last month as oil barrels have gone up. Why have cities, because at the end of the day, maintenance is still on the city, even if the developer puts it in. Why are there cities who are saying, yeah, let's go with the cheaper one now that doesn't perform as well in so many variables? Like, where's the cost benefit analysis? Like, where are they weighing as being the more important priority? Because there are cities doing it.
I'll answer, and if you want to add. I see this in cities that have very large swaths of undeveloped property that they're coming into, and they're using the PVC because it's cheaper, you know, and that's really been the driver. It's the operational value, the value of having, you know, a material that will, you know, like I said before, is we're able to locate, maintain. You know, I just don't see the benefit for Lake Elmo going to that, even though it is, you know, maybe 15% cheaper right now. But like you said, the price has been on the rise. But typically, I see it in cities that are still, there's very large, and not to say that we don't have some large wide open tracts. Where I'm about to talk about a 180-acre parcel development. But when I say large, I'm talking thousands and thousands of acres.
Arden Hills type thing.
Arden Hills, your Maple Groves, your Brooklyn Parks. Mm-hmm.
Is he wrong?
No, he's not wrong. You know, that's what I've experienced or seen also, talking to peers. It's a cost. They're putting it in, but they're going to stick with one or the other. They're not going to bounce back and forth between the two. So when they set their standards, they're just going with what they want to go with. And keep it to that instead of going, like I said, back to ductile iron pipe or going to PVC.
So with the project that was on Inwood and that discussion of PVC, what is the harm now to the city by having an outlier that exists? Like, what additional resources or changes does Public Works need because, well, this one has PVC?
So is that, I'm not familiar, so I don't know if it's the directional board or is it the?
Nope, it's all open cut. It's all open cut. So
Okay.
I hate to have it phrased like there's a risk. You know what I mean? Like, what I would say is now we've got a spot where we're going to have to do something different if we need to come in and locate pipe, or if we need to, if we're sound in for leaks, you know. And does that spot, you know, does that become a spotty thing? You know what I mean? Do we have like an area of PVC, and then like, you know, the city comes in and rebuilds an area with ductile iron next door, and then another one, and then, you know what I mean? We're trying to maintain like a uniformity, because that's part of what makes the system, you know, very maintainable for staff.
Timeline-wise, given PVC is drastically jumping in price right now, and it's another story. When would those purchases occur on their end? Are we talking like another 6-8 months for phasing? And say hypothetically, they don't like that price because it is going up. Do they have the option in their DA to go to ductile iron?
So they, you know, when developers bid their projects, so when we bid our projects as a public agency, you know, we get a price at the time of bid, and that's the price that has to be honored, you know, if it's just pipe like that, you know what I mean? So they could, you know, they could bid their project. They have a little more flexibility in the you know, as a privately bid project. They have a little more flexibility to negotiate, but you get the price and it's the price, you know what I mean? So they could do a bid, there's always bid alternates, but I don't like that either in this situation because, you know, you don't have certainty going in, you know, so I don't have anything else to add to that.
Councilmember Dragisich.
I think the other benefit of sticking with one type is the stocking of spare parts and repair parts. You know, you don't have to have a whole warehouse full because some is PVC and some is ductile iron and some is, you know, Orangeburg, you know what I mean? For those who know what that is. But staying consistent with ductile iron allows Public Works then to have a supply of repair parts, repair sleeves that can be used and without having to double that.
Absolutely.
Well, I asked this question in part because I didn't know the difference, so you asked the question when you don't know, and I appreciate the presentation with the information in there, and I tend to agree that having a consistent system is in the city's best interest. And so I wouldn't, based on the information provided, think it's in the city's best interest for not only the staff, but the residents that help to pay to maintain the overall system, to have multiple types if we can avoid it, especially when it's open trench installation. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. Councilmember Hearn.
I agree. Stick with that as the standard. I think more so for me, I think this was just really helpful from the standpoint of, in the future, if developers are coming asking for this flexibility, have a much clearer understanding. Would be a great presentation to kind of have in the back pocket for that situation in the future, I guess. And I think in that situation too, right, it was a property that had went through a lot of requests trying to make it work. We were trying to find a way to make it work because it was a development that we thought fit well with the community, and so we were trying to find that compromise. And knowing this now with this information, maybe that was. It would have been nice to know this then, but now we know it moving forward, and it does seem like that probably would be the best course of action, is to follow this city standard and look for other areas with a developer for possible deviations if needed, outside of this as an option.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda, I'm assuming you're presenting this since I don't see Mr. Isaacson.
It's me.
All right, so we've got authorized design services for Section 16, Phase 2 sanitary extension.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so yes, Section 16 Phase 2 sanitary sewer is the new name for the 180-acre storm sewer. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the background here, and then go through the proposed improvements schedule. So this is the sanitary sewer. I'll get to a map here in a second. That is be an extension of the existing 10-inch sanitary sewer that is currently stubbed into the called the southern parcel of the 180 acres that the city owns out off of Ideal Avenue. It drains to the new lift station in Oakdale. So Lake Elmo's been, community development staff's been working with Urban Land Institute Technical Assistance Panel, Division Development on the parcel, as council is well aware. So as part of that, earlier this year, the question was asked, should we move forward with this project now, or should we wait and try and sync it up with the county's Ideal Avenue project, which is currently not scheduled to begin construction until 2029. And that's not a guarantee, right? So the decision was made to move forward now because we're projecting development to happen in advance of this project. So the biggest issue here is we need to get this line underneath the Union Pacific Railroad tracks that bisect the 180-acre parcel south of Casal 14. So we've scoped out the project, and we've got a proposal here. We've also continued to coordinate with Washington County, but the project has stalled a little bit. We actually pulled the county's presentation at the request off the April work session. So this is a little hard to see, but the purple line there is an approximate route. This is by no means spot on, but the idea is to minimize any sort of encroachment into the developable property, sort of trying to keep it towards the right of way, but we're not within the county's right of way. So as we go north towards the tracks, you can see the pipe kind of swing over a little bit. That's to avoid, the track controls. You've got the gate arm there, you've got, the signal there. So we need to get away from that because we're anticipating that the depth of the sewer is gonna probably be in excess of, the depth of the sewer is gonna be in excess of 20 feet based on past experience with this line. There's very deep comm lines out there. So, getting authorization today, we will get a survey out there and get moving on this because the design should come together relatively quickly. The problem is the railroad permitting can take a while, as we know. So we're looking at getting the final plans and specs together over the course of this summer and going out for bids this winter with construction next summer. It's just kind of a general schedule. We'll have more details on that as we move forward. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead here. I was gonna talk a little bit about the costs here. We didn't have a cost slide in there, my apologies. So the proposal is $46,100 to do the design, the road permitting, the surveying, and any bidding. Any sort of, we don't have any geotechnical in here yet. We know we're gonna need to get some pretty deep borings for this. So staff is recommending the city council authorize the Bolton and Bank to complete the final design and bidding services, the not to exceed amount of $46,100. The amount does not include geotechnical investigations. We'll come back to council with those at a later date. That's it.
Councilmember Holt.
Is dealing with the railroad will be amazing. And is it a different process because it's not a crossing than what we dealt with at Village Parkway? Because it's it's not simple, but because it's not a crossing, it's not an at-grade crossing, it's going under.
Mayor and council, it could be a little lighter duty because there's no street there. Yes. But it still is, it's not, just a single form permit or anything like that.
It's still the railroad.
Still the railroad.
Is there any, because with Village Parkway, because of the lack of cooperation, there was a separate process with DOT to help encourage them. Does that apply in this case or not because there's no crossing of people?
Yeah, Mayor and council, there's no vehicular crossing, so that removes the DOT. So we're going to, it's more or less like, I don't want to call it a simple utility crossing because nothing's simple when you're crossing the road right of way. But that's when I say a little lighter duty, we're not dealing with, a local road that we're proposing to bring across to.
Worst case scenario, do they have to cooperate?
I think, I don't know if they're legally bound, I would maybe defer that to the city attorney, but there's a million crossings, utility crossings through the railroad right of way, you know what I mean? It's pretty routine, but it still takes time.
All right, thank you.
Didn't see where the funding for this was coming from. Can someone speak to that?
Right, so Mr. Mayor, I'll note that we're moving forward at council's direction right now based on development, so there is no CIP project. This would be inserted into the CIP in the next update.
Okay.
And I anticipate, and I don't want to speak for the finance department, but this is an enterprise funded project with the sanitary sewer extension.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Stanley? Okay, if not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to authorize preparation of plans and specs for design phase engineering services to be provided by Bolton and Mink in the not-to-exceed amount of $46,100.
Support.
Well, we have Councilmember Holtz with the motion and Councilmember Hearn with the second. Discussion? Councilmember Hearn?
I'm happy that we're being proactive with this. I think, obviously, we wanna build to sell the land this time, and I think this is gonna be a step in the right direction. I think one other thing that really makes me feel good about this too is I really do think this is gonna be a cost that we recoup a little bit with the sale. So I'm not really looking this as just a lost cost, or, ask the developer to do that. I think this is gonna be something that increases the sale value. It makes it more likely that we do sell it. So I think it's good that we're getting it started, and I think we're gonna recoup a lot of this.
I agree. If there's no more, I'll call the question. All those in favor of recommending, or having, authorizing Bolton and Mank to complete the final design bidding service not to exceed $46,100, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes, thank you. Next on the docket is 2050 Comprehensive Plan Contract with Bolton and Mank.
Hello, good evening. As you all know, every 10 years, we have to complete a comprehensive plan for the Met Council. And it's something that we've talked about at a workshop, I believe in July of 2025, looking at scope. And as you know, we work closely with Bolton and Mank on our planning and obviously an engineering side of it. So we're working with them on a scope, and through this process, we received a scope from them December 31st. And then per our policy, we sent it out to 4 other firms just to, see what other proposals we could get, make sure price seems in line. And of those 4, we received 2 proposals. Also, the other one was from HKGI, who had partnered with Bolton and Mank on the engineering. And Bolton and Mank's prices, came in lower. And we're here today to make a recommendation so we can move forward on the 2050 comprehensive plan. Jenny Faulkner is here to give the comprehensive plan update, so she can go through that, and then if there's other questions, I can answer them later.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Nice to see you again. Nathan couldn't be here tonight, so I am filling in for him, but I know. Happy to be here as well. So I will go through, I just have a few quick slides just to talk about Bolton and Mank a little bit, who we are, in case you don't know. We have been your engineer for a while and your planner I've been here personally. This is my 4th year helping out the city of Lake Elmo. Happy to do it. Wonderful community. So we have local knowledge, we have in-house service, we are your one-stop shop. We've got surveyors, water people, water resource people, transportation people, so we don't have sub-consultants on this proposal. And we use the words practice-oriented leaders, so not only will we help you write your plan, we help implement it. We are helping your staff as they get projects in, and so it's not just this is what it's all about. We are kind of boots on the ground and understand the implications of what the decisions that go into the comp plan will have as it's implemented by staff. Local knowledge, of course, I kind of covered this already. Certainly we work closely with your community development department, and we updated the Parks Master Plan in 2024. We acquired or merged with Focus Engineering a couple of years ago, and that team is still with us. They have longstanding history in this community, and we have all their files, so with Jack and Chad. And so that's awesome. And then we have, like I said, a deep bench that can deal with all the natural resources and environmental issues. And I'll get into that in a second. As far as planning, last go-around, the 2040 cycle, Bolton and Mank helped advance over 30 plans in the metro area. There are approximately 180 local jurisdictions in the metro area that have to do a comp plan. That's a lot. And so there's a lot of regulation going on. These are all going to come together. They're all due December 31st, 2028. Our team is located in Oakdale, just down the road. And like I said, we implement these comp plans for Lake Elmo and our other client planning communities every day. We will be putting together an engagement plan that is going to be strategic and specific as far as what we're going to do at the onset. We have a lot of things from videos, books, we have online web surveys, mailers, certainly in-person engagement. We will talk about that. So we will be putting together a strategic engagement plan with your staff before we get started. Certainly spring, summer is a good time to get that going when all the events are happening. Where do we start your plan? We will start with your strategic plan that was adopted last year. You have a couple comments in there, goals related to development, and I will get to that slide, specifically strategy number 2 that talks about maintaining the historical charm and character, talking about our infrastructure, community values, and whatnot. So this will be the basis and part of the vision and goals that will go into the beginning part and the vision for the 2050 comp plan. Here's what your current comp plan looks like. If you haven't seen it, there's a link there. It's on your website. Looks familiar to some of you. As you know, the Met Council tells you what you have to do. Nobody likes that, but we try to, you get to kind of decide how that's done, how you're going to meet those requirements, for better or for worse. So we will work with you, with your staff, to try to navigate these things that gets to the best outcome for the city and following your visions and goals. So what's new this go around? Seems like the rules change every 10 years. And so just to give you a quick highlight, of course, for Lake Elmo, you're very much familiar with the water appropriation issue. That's affecting your comp plan, your 2050 comp plan, and the growth that you can or cannot have in the eyes of the Met Council. There's new requirements for climate and resiliency that the Met Council is requiring in 2050, and this is coming from state statute. They've increased the minimum density amounts for suburban and suburban edge communities. They have also, there's affordable housing requirements that are in the comp plan. They tell you what share of the region's number of affordable units you have to provide opportunity for. You don't have to build these, you don't have to pay for them, but you just have to provide zoning areas where these could go. And it typically is the higher density area. So you basically have to have enough land guided and zoned at a higher density that would could allow that many units to be built, but you don't have to build them, there's no requirement for it. So what cities used to do in their comp plan was, we'll build this many affordable units in this planning period, and they would back end all of the affordable units to be in MUSA staging areas that were 10, 20 years out. The Met Council doesn't like that because they would tell you we're not building enough affordable units today. So they're going to start doing a look-back period every 10 years. So they will be looking at how many affordable units or opportunities for that are being built every 10 years instead of every 20, 30-year cycle. So that will just have some impacts. They do have an option to use some, or to include some social equity components. Not required, but certainly it's an option, and they're giving grant dollars to communities that do include that. We did not propose that in our proposal, just to let you know that, but just want to let you know that's out there. Okay, so as far as the land use goes, where do we start? We start with your current comp plan, and really it all starts with land use, which kind of shapes all the other infrastructure plans and natural resource plans in your comp plan. So this is the time as we get started, we will be having discussions about the MUSA, what goes where, because that's going to set the stage for the rest of your plans. And look at the future growth numbers. I think there's some ongoing discussions right now about future population projections. So once we get those set, and then we talk about what the number is, then where it can go and where those MUSA changes should be. So that will be kind of on the front end of the discussion along with engagement. As I said, we will use your current goals and vision. There may be some minor updates to what we have, looking at the strategic plan that was recently adopted. Our proposal has a steering committee, approximately eight meetings built into that for check-ins, and certainly there'll be opportunities to check in with you all as much or as little as you want. So we definitely can keep you engaged along the way. And then our goal is to have some heavy engagement done and the plan completely drafted by the end of this year. There's a mandatory 6-month review period. So once it's drafted, all the Met Council, the DNR, all the agencies, your adjacent neighbors, school districts, they have 6 months to review and comment. So then we just kind of sit and wait. And then one day, you're gonna get letters in the mail, and they'll, could be long, let's hope not, let's hope we do a good job, and it's smaller than it was last go-around. And then they'll tell you the things that you missed or the things that they don't agree with, and then we gotta kind of go back and update a few things, because the plans have to be consistent with the Met Council plans, your plans have to be consistent with the county's plans and the state's plans. So it all kind of rolls uphill or downhill, depending on which way we're going, and they all have to be in alignment. So this is about an 18-month process, 18 to 24 months then, kind of depending on how quickly we get things done, the extent of those comments. The drop dead date is December 31st, 2028. We'll definitely be well within that window. Our goal is to be done sometime in 2027. We provided a detailed schedule in our proposal to Jason, but, and then I will stand for any questions if you have them. And thank you.
Councilmember Holtz?
Thank you for that, number one, and welcome back.
Oh, yes, thank you.
When it comes to Bolton and Menk and resources, because this is an activity that is, 2.5 years every 10, and for the last several years, comp plans are not being worked on. How is it, except for amendments and?
Yes.
How does it work internally in terms of, well, now a massive shift in labor is occurring? Are there then are there things that Bolton Menk is then not doing for the next 2 years because of the labor constraints that are going towards this comp plan? And I guess the reason I ask is, how much if Bolton Menk is awarded this, how much does it impact the work that Bolton Menk does because of that shift? Is there a risk? Because are you hiring temps to help out, or is it just internal shifts?
Well, I would say, Councilmember Holtz, it's a little bit of both. We have hired some more staff, some more planning staff. We are a growing company, and so it seems like we're always hiring on the engineering side, on the planning side. So that's part of it. I will also say, as we've been your planning partner for years, you are a priority client. You have planning and engineering. That takes precedent over somebody that we don't have a relationship with. So I think I would say with confidence, you're going to get Nathan and I and Nate and Jack and Chad and our team that's very much familiar with the community, working with you on this as a priority, for certain.
Jack might be golfing in Arizona,
I know.
but
We still tap him for intel every now and again, so I hope that answered your
Yes.
question, yes.
Councilmember Dragisich?
In the information, there's reference to a technical advisory committee. What's that committee made up of?
We would work with your staff to identify who that would be. It could be, by statute, the planning commission is charged with creating the comprehensive plan, in concert with your staff and consultants. It could be a committee of 2 Parks Commission members, 2 Planning Commission members, 2 council members, community members. We have yet to get into what that looks like. We just know that we don't want it done in a vacuum with staff totally leading the process. We know that it should be a little bit broader than that.
Just looking through it, kind of, impression I got was kind of like the city council was off to the side of this effort. It didn't seem like we had much of a role based on the project approach.
I think that can be established here at the onset, how much you want to be involved in the steering committee. Absolutely. Hasn't been decided yet, and if
Okay.
now would be a good time, or at a future date with discussion with Nicole, if you want, how much do you want to be involved? We haven't started anything yet, so we can certainly make
So
something.
that's still open for discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Thank
and we'll
you.
be working with staff as that gets settled.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's that?
question.
Go for it.
So it was also mentioned that grants do exist from the Met Council when we're discussing the cost, that we're eligible for 50,000 to help with the cost. How do we make sure we get that grant?
It's my understanding that the Met Council, you're a designated community, so you're gonna get 40,000. That's already been determined, is my
Okay.
understanding. So you'll get part of it up front. I think once you enter into a contract, and the Met Council, they still don't have all their work done, Councilmember Holtz. So, once they get their website and stuff updated, then you'll be able to apply for those funds right away. Probably show them our contract and proposal. They'll give you half up front, is my understanding, and then the other half once you submit.
Why are we eligible? Is it because of our size?
I can't tell you. I don't know. It's, I think it's a determination of size, and I thought it was income. Not all communities are getting these funds.
It's the quality of the city council.
That was gonna be my first guess, but then I realized that would not be a reason. So,
Yeah,
look at us, come on. All right, thank you for that.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right. If there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the proposal and sign a contract with Bolton and Mink for the 2050 comprehensive plan.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hearn, a second by Councilmember Holtz. Discussion.
I think this makes sense, continue to work with Bolton and Mink here. Done a lot of work with them, obviously, they understand our city. I don't love the fact that we have to pay this much for a comp plan period, but if it is something that we have to do, I guess this does make sense to move forward with a partner that we've done a lot of work with.
Yeah, I agree. It makes sense to keep the continuity with Bolton and Mink, so I'll approve this as well.
The one suggestion that I'll have, and I couldn't bring it up during the questions, because it's not really a question, is that there were several comments made during the last comp plan that the community wasn't involved as much as it could have been or should have been, so I'd really encourage us to make sure that that the community is wrapped into this process, and that we listen to them and make sure that they're heard, and that we fold that into the comp plan as much as we're able to, given some of the restrictions that we have placed on us, so.
I would say ditto, and I appreciate that between the bid and then the grant money, this is gonna come in less than what we budgeted for, so I think that is good as well. I fully agree with Councilmember Hearn. I cringe at the thought that we have a cost here that's required. It's an unfunded mandate with a grant to help with some of the unfunded mandate. Like, I still, ticks me off, but thank you for the proposal, and I plan to support it as well.
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor of hiring Bolton and Mink to take us through the 2050 comp
2050,
plan?
yes.
Please signify by saying aye.
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 And that's approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the annual report.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. It is my privilege to introduce the city's annual report for this past year. This report provides a comprehensive overview of our operations and our progress made toward the goals and priorities established by the City Council. Over the past year, staff have remained focused on implementing the city's adopted priorities while continuing to deliver the essential day-to-day services that keep the organization running effectively. This balanced approach ensures that we are both advancing the strategic initiatives and maintaining our high quality of services for our community. Wanted to outline the report that you do have in the packet. The report does highlight our key accomplishments and our future priorities across the departments. It outlines how the staff efforts align with our City Council's core strategies, which is demonstrating a consistent commitment to the direction you have already set for us. Also, included in the report is our by the numbers pages. This data is data that we identified to help tell our story. The data we included helps us make informed decisions, track performance, identify trends and issues, and increase our transparency. We've also made some changes to our quarterly dashboards, and those changes will be reflected next month for our first quarter dashboards. This document we also look to as serving a tool to inform our future decision-making, again, identifying trends, emerging needs, and opportunities that will help guide our policy decisions and resource allocation in the coming year. We also think that this is a great tool to use to help educate the community by providing clear and transparent information about our city services, projects, and our priorities. We wouldn't have been able to pull off this report without the work of our department directors and staff, along with our communications coordinator, Kathy, as well. So tonight, we're gonna provide a high-level summary of the report, but you do have the full report in the packet. And then staff's gonna be available to answer any questions, and we welcome your feedback as we go along too. So, our first slide, you guys have been really busy this last year. We, have had our regular meetings, our special meetings will include any closed sessions or special meetings to do commissioner interviews, and those things as well. We started out the year with the creation of the strategic plan, which we really look to as what created our framework for our decision-making. It creates a roadmap for the city, identifying those key priorities. Also, part of the strategic plan was paring down our 8 core values to 3, which are presented on the slide: the excellence, integrity, and service. And these values reflect how the city conducts our work. We also worked on creating our core strategies. And these strategies represent the primary areas of focus for the organization and are used by staff to prioritize our work, evaluate projects, and then guide our recommendations that we bring back to the council. Together, the strategic plan, core strategies, and core values create a strong foundation for consistent, transparent, and accountable governance. The council has also remained responsive to emerging needs and community input, which is demonstrating a willingness to adapt while not losing sight of our original goals. And we've made good strides at our work that is reflected in all of our key strategy areas. Throughout the year, the council advanced a number of policy decisions, which we have listed on the slide, that align with the framework. These decisions have supported the council's core strategies of building a vibrant, inclusive, connected community, build and sustain resilient infrastructure, manage the growth, balance finances for now and the future, maintain responsive, transparent, and adaptive governance, deliver efficient, reliable, and innovative services. And these decisions help guide our staff's work that you will see represented throughout the rest of the annual report. So we will have each department head come up and present their slides, but please feel free to ask any questions as we go too.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Nicole volunteered to do the city council portion, I told her I'd help her out with the administration side. So I'll jump right in with our mission as from the administration department to deliver excellence in municipal operations through integrity, transparency, and accountability, ensuring seamless support for elected officials, empowering staff, and providing responsive, high-quality service to the community. Our core services in the administration department is coordinate city council operations, organize implementation of policy, oversee operations of all departments, manage essential civic functions including elections and city licensing, serve as central communications hub, and support city employees. One of the first things that council and staff did was the adoption of the 2025-2026 strategic plan. Fortunately, I didn't get to participate in that as I joined you halfway through the year, but I have read it, refer to it in all that we do. Where you adopted the core strategies, you set goals and gave direction to what we do, and with the goal of long-term vision in mind. The fourth core strategy, with the adoption of the strategic plan, we also focused on internal and external communications, launching the new website and creating an internal newsletter as well. Core strategy number 5, again, focused on the open and transparent communication internal and externally. By that, we hired a communications coordinator, created an intranet site for employees where we have documents and more information on benefits and in general more information for our employees. We started a labor management committee for working with our union staff and management to open communications there, and started an employment engagement committee where we've had a strong positive feedback from staff on the impact that that has made. Launched an annual survey. And then another core strategy that we looked at, build a vibrant, inclusive, and connected community. Staff supported City Council 100th anniversary, created the annual water brochure. So those are just some of the accomplishments in 2025. Where we're looking at for 2026, again, outside of the day-to-day stuff, and this list obviously is not all-inclusive, but again, looking at our data, where we have our files, knowing what we have, digitalizing what we have, looking at the retention schedule, making sure that we're compliant to that. Growing community, we will be evaluating polling locations, possibly adding 2 additional polling locations. We are conducting a second all-employee workplace survey, which will actually close tomorrow. We currently have, as of this morning, about 60% of our staff that has responded to that, where the Employment Engagement Committee will look back and review that input from staff. We are up for union negotiations in 2026. Tonight you approved the fire captain job description, so we'll begin the recruitment of those 3 additional captain positions for fire. And we'll continue to support Public Works with the implementation from the operational assessment. To touch on core strategy number 4, one of the big projects will be compliance with the accessibility that we will be required to comply with by April of 2027. Training on all the pieces to the website, documents that are on the website. We will create an annual report, which you have in front of you today, and launching of a national survey for residents to get their input. Another core strategy is build a vibrant, inclusive, connected community. We will be implementing a community art program for City Hall to have this beautiful space that is intended to showcase art, so filling that space. So those are just some of the projects for 2026 in the administration department. Any questions?
Not seeing any. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next up is community development. So the mission of community development is we are committed to guiding thoughtful growth, preserving our community's rural character and natural resources, and fostering vibrant neighborhoods and businesses. We strive to enhance quality of life, promote economic vitality, and ensure sustainable development for current and future generations. And our core services are planning and zoning, and planning land use, permits, inspections, code enforcement, economic development and redevelopment of sites, and community engagement. And as you can see, we have a couple of new members of our staff, and we are basically we're fully staffed at this point in the department. So we were able to add people and grow since I've been here for the past over 2 years. So this is a good spot that we're in moving forward. So for managing growth, the 2025 highlights. Managing growth, we completed the technical assistance panel for the 3M site, the 180 acres with the Urban Land Institute. Maintaining responsive, transparent, adaptive governance. We implemented Cloud Permit. It's our permitting system to streamline the process, improve the process. We can do inspections in the field with iPads, tough books. So that was a good implementation that we were able to do early on, and it's been fully implemented in 2025. Deliver efficient, reliable, and innovative public services. So we established the tree fund. We launched the Boulevard Tree Program, so we're about to kick that Boulevard program off, planting in May. We were awarded $17,500 from the ULI grant study from, this was from the county. So just to kind of highlight that is that we're looking for grants in the department too. We were awarded $82,000 for environmental testing at the fire station through a county grant also. Worked with Bolton and Menk to update. We now have a city property viewer, so not only do you have the county viewer, this adds shoreline overlays, land use, zoning, all these other, all the other information for us and developers. We also coordinated removal of over 100 diseased ash trees with Public Works, and this is specifically working with Cimarron, and we are continuing to do that and acknowledge, work with them to acknowledge which trees need to come down. So that's going to be an ongoing process, several more years. Also, building a vibrant, inclusive, and connected community. We issued the RFP, awarded the old fire station, Public Works building. We're still working on that moving forward. You updated the old village zoning and future land use based on our 2024 study. And then for the 2026 priorities, looking at managed growth, continue to work on and complete the following development projects. Just want to bring this up because people ask, Oakland Middle School addition is ongoing. That is going to hopefully be completed by this year. The elementary school is going to open this year. Prairie Sky Twin Homes should start construction. Starbucks is going to open in a couple weeks. Roars is ongoing. Bridgewater Bank opened. At-Home Apartments should be wrapping up here in the next month or so. Primrose School on the Bridgewater site is under construction. And Wood Townhouses, I believe, started today on their infrastructure. North Star second and third, hopefully those additions will be completed too. And obviously the comprehensive plan is a big one to start and get most of it done this year.
I saw a sign next to Hagberg's. Is that coming soon too?
The sign,
I don't know, it says ready to lease in the farm field.
that is an At-Home Apartments, so
Yeah,
they
it's-
own that
Yeah.
parcel. So they have not submitted a concept yet for that site, but
But yet they're ready to lease.
they're ready, yeah.
Okay, I was just curious
They're in the
about that.
proper sewer phase, so that's good.
Okay.
Building vibrant, inclusive, connected community, continue planning and marketing the 180-acre site. We're working on that, as you all know. Redevelop the old fire station. We have a closed session on the 21st, so hopefully we can get that moving forward. And then also the Central Park. We're gonna have an RFP for a consultant submitted here pretty soon to the council. Council can review the RFP, and then we want to issue that for a consultant to work on that aspect of not just sports complex, the features of the complex, but everything that people want at that site. We are going to consider and look at costs and long-term maintenance.
Hello. I would draw your attention to these lovely individuals in our photo. The finance department handles money in, which is largely Ryan on the far left, money out, which is Mike, who does our AP and payroll. Nina and I do most of the lifting of the long-term, or all the planning, so budgets and levies, capital improvement plans, compliance, reporting, such as the annual comprehensive financial plan, and then just management of all of our financial systems. Keep this relatively brief because I'm guessing most of you are nearly as excited about accounting as I am. So in addition to our day-to-day work, which is kind of the little bit more boring stuff, we've had a couple of really exciting projects for the last couple of years. They're very large projects for our department of 4 to take on. The first being our financial software implementation. Again, I think I've mentioned it a dozen times. I appreciate the investment in this new tool. So there's a lot that went into this last year as far as planning the database, getting the information out of our existing system, and getting it cleanly and accurately into the new system. So lots and lots of planning there. We reworked our chart of accounts a little bit, standardized, made it shorter, hopefully easier to use. We did some integration with our new AMI system with the meter reading. And then we've been, for as long as Nina's been here, we've been building out our fixed asset database, and which will give us a better handle on what we have and what we need financially to replace in the future. Another big project that we've been working on is our strategic financial planning. So we're kind of reworking some systems that were already in place. This actually has multiple touch points with it, or other processes that we already had in place, including our utility study, our 10-year CIP, our some early spreadsheets that I had for strategic financial planning. We've been also building out our 5-year investment ladder, which will, again, just kind of help us map that out. And then we've been working with community development to finalize some, or not finalize, but work on some development projections. So that was 25. 26 is going to look a lot like that, just slightly different. So we've largely implemented the software. However, there are a couple pieces that remain to be implemented. So we've got a special assessment module that will be coming later this fall. We have numerous processes that we've been improving and just sort of relearning. It's sort of like walking. You know, we've had to essentially kind of relearn every single process that we do. And as we were learning, we were also tweaking those processes and designing new ones just to make things more efficient.
Can you go back a slide?
Sure.
Just speak to the artificial intelligence supported invoicing.
So BSNA is our new software, and they are really good about telling us what they're doing, what's coming next, and one of their implementations this year will be AI invoicing. So we will be able to scan an invoice, and the system will essentially sort of learn to read that invoice and pull that information from the invoice into the system. We obviously need to still do our, checking it, and then also making sure that we code it appropriately. And yeah, so just kind of one more added efficiency as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Well, good evening, everyone. Like Clarissa mentioned, when you look at the staff that put in the work, it's great for me to see how big of a picture we need to have for our staff because of the solid numbers that we have. The folks you see in the picture are truly the ones that do all the work for this department and are driving what we're doing day in and day out. We want to be a department that proudly serves our growing community with the goal of being there when they need us most, equipped with the right skills to make a difference. We cover a lot of different values and core services that we cover. Ultimately, we just want to be there for the community when they need us and be well-trained and ready for whatever they need. As you take a look at our 2025 highlights, we had 7 firefighters that completed their probationary academy, and we hired 5 more last year. That's a big number of people, and we're retaining those people. That's the most important thing that I think that stands out with our current staff. Our retention is great, and we have such a great number of people that are really putting in a lot of work. When I look at the staff hours, we had 8,300, almost 8,400 hours of staff training in 2025. That's beyond important for the quality that we get out of our firefighters, but it just shows the level of dedication that they've got to obtain to stick around and do what we're doing. Hiring our public works and fire administrative assistant Angie has been a huge benefit to our department. Both of our departments really allows us to get ahead on a lot of projects. She's been a huge help. When we look at being a vibrant, inclusive, and connected community, try to figure out ways of how the fire department can be out and open for the community. Hosting that annual open house continues to grow. We want to continue to have live demonstrations where we can teach and educate our residents when they come see what we're doing. It's more than just the trucks It's more than just taking some photos and grabbing a snack. We're trying to make an impact when they do come visit us. And hopefully, they can see what we're doing without having to see what we're doing on an emergency call. Last year, we also celebrated the retirement of Brian Johnson with 32 years of service. I don't know if we're gonna see 32 years of service out of staff in our model, or if the fire industry sees that anymore, but that's a huge benchmark. And he definitely had a lasting impact on what we're doing. Our new staff see numbers like that and try to look at this as a long-term thing that they can do rather than just something they try. And hopefully when they're here, they see value in what we're doing, and they want to continue to be a part of what we're doing here. Through managed growth, efficient, reliable, innovative services, this year for our 2026 priorities, we're going to hire 3 shift captains. That's going to definitely bolster what we're able to do with our shift crews. It provides another solid level of supervision to our staff, and again, allows us to manage that growth of what we're doing as a fire department to stay on top of things. When we look at our innovative services and a vibrant, inclusive, connected community, really continue to build our community risk reduction programs. Just this past week, we kicked off our Sound the Alarm home inspection program. And getting the chance to interact with people outside of an emergency call, make a difference for people, getting updated devices in their homes where they're 10, 15, 20 years old, or they just have a lack of these detectors, or just bad batteries. It really helps us try to stay ahead of what's coming our way.
Was that directed at me?
Definitely not. We see a huge need and a huge ask of our CPR training that we can provide to residents, we can provide to our businesses at no charge, or if they need cards for a small fee, but just having our staff interact that way and provide another service outside of just emergency response is really important. And then soon, under innovative services, taking delivery of some new vehicle and apparatus. Within the next few weeks, we'll take delivery of our new utility terrain vehicle. As that replacement comes online, we'll take the time to properly train our staff on that and get that in serviced. And then later this year, the Tender 2 replacement, we'll be taking delivery of that. So having the fleet we have and having the equipment that we have is extremely important. We appreciate the support in those efforts as well. And again, I've cut down from 60 slides, so we've got a lot of ground to cover, but in the report, there's a lot of things there, so.
One thing that really struck me, you said one time, was the response to incident that had decreased when we went from the old fire station to the new one, and having the staff on hand to do that. Could you remind us what that time is to incident now?
We're under 2 minutes now,
under 2
from the
minutes?
time the tones drop to when we can get out the door. Obviously, during the day, we're under a minute. When you start looking at when we're, overnights, it's a little different, it takes staff a little longer to get up. But we've gone down from 6.5 minutes to get a vehicle out the door to respond. We're down and consistently staying under 2 minutes.
I think that's great.
Minute and a half. Where we still see numbers kind of drive that to 1.5 to 2 minutes is the number of overlapping calls that we're getting now. So there, in 2025, there was 116 times where we had another call come in when we were already on another one. So sometimes there is a delay for us to wrap up what we're doing and move on to the next, or because if we can't leave the one we're on, we've got to call back our other staff or do a different sort of deployment where we are a little delayed, or we get resources going to that second call. But that's definitely something as we continue to monitor as we move forward. As our call volume increases, again in 2025, we saw a nearly 13% increase in our call volume. That's going to continue. That 13% is a pretty consistent number that I've seen in my time here for the past few years, and I don't think that's going down. And that's also area-wide as too. I just talked to Stillwater's new chief, and we're all seeing very similar numbers right now from 25 and what we're seeing in 26.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, council members and mayor. All right, so Public Works, the mission statement of Public Works Department is to provide the community with a sustainable public infrastructure that enhances quality of life, supports community well-being, ensures a safe, clean, and efficient environment to all users. Core services, street and transportation, snow removal, ice control, street sweeping, repairs, and signage. Water services, safe drinking water, system maintenance, testing. Wastewater services, water collection, lift stations, system upkeep, like the typical out of sight, out of mind. Got to keep that stuff up. Stormwater management, drainage systems, ponds, and flood prevention. Parks and public work spaces. I should say parks and public spaces, parks, trails, landscaping, facility maintenance. Fleet and equipment, vehicle and equipment maintenance. Utility operation support, monitoring services, connections, systems, conditions, coordinations. Emergency response, storm response, and infrastructure repairs. Public Works 2025 highlights. I'd like to thank Adam for this because I was not here in 2025, so Adam had a lot of input on this. Thank you, sir. Vibrant, inclusive, connected community, supported community events, night out, 100-year celebration, light up Lake Elmo. Replace playground equipment at Clyce Park. Install amenities at Shilkins Park, signs, benches, and trails. Partner in Lake Elmo Avenue Gardens Project, updated park reservation policies. Efficient, reliable, innovative services. Heart of Public Works Administrative Assistant, like Dustin said, great asset, great to have somebody on hand that can rely on, help out with stuff. Complete stormwater inspections and repairs. Exercised 301 water gate valves throughout the city. Completed startup and put into service a new well 2 water treatment plant. Completed, excuse me, partnered with Bay West on PFAS destruction research. Managed growth. Completed concept plan for Ridge Park. Expanded and reconstructed parking lots, Pebble, Sunfish, and Reed Parks. Resistant infrastructure. Remove EBA infested trees in parks and outlots. Removed invasive species at Sunfish Park. For our 2026 priorities for the vibrant, inclusive, connected community, develop Lions Park master plan, install new park pavilion, resurface basketball courts, Carriage Station, Montville, Tavlin Park. Place playground equipment, Tavlin, Ridge, Parks. Then we have the Phase 2 Lake Elmo Gardens, tree additions, which will take place. The efficient, reliable innovation services, improve department efficiencies and services delivered. Implement work order systems, the Beehive system. Maintain equipment for longevity and performance. Continue stormwater inspections and repairs, additional 25%. Keep up with their MS4 permitting. Responsive, transparent, adaptive governance. Hire a public works director or maintenance operator. I'm here standing in front of you guys. Ensure staffing meets growth in services and demands. Maintain staff training. That's a big thing in public works, is keeping staff up on training. We're a young staff, we have young staff members, crew in public works. Training is key for them to learn, to find out how everything works. Resistant infrastructure, implement 2 to 3 year gate valve maintenance program. Questions, Zane?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. Well, it's just Chad and I in the picture, but there's a lot more to it than that. So the mission of the engineering department, the engineering department is dedicated to the planning, designing, and delivering of safe, reliable, and sustainable public infrastructure. We serve the community by implementing and advancing the city's vision through responsible stewardship of public resources and are committed to strengthening the economic vitality and quality of life in Lake Elmo, kind of a common theme across the board, which is just awesome, right? Some of our core services involve transportation planning, asset management, surveying, GIS operations, grant writing and funding administration, construction oversight and contract administration, a lot of infrastructure planning and design, capital improvement plan updates, development review, that's another really big one, and also construction oversight of those improvements that will become public infrastructure. Water, wastewater, and storm water system management, and environmental compliance and permitting, thinking MS4, PFAS, things like that. So we did a lot of work last year. We'll talk about some of that here today. And so under infrastructure and utilities, we got the well 2 PFAS treatment plants secured and the MPCA 3M operating maintenance grant in place. We upgraded the I-94 lift station and force main to increase sewer capacity and rehab a failing force main system. Extended sewer and water into the new Lake Elmo elementary site as well as to Oakland Middle School. And then we secured the MPCA 3M grant for new well and future water treatment plants. It's a big one. Under transportation and capital improvements, we delivered the 2025 CIP projects. Just to recap some of those, we had the Village Parkway Railroad Crossing, the local street improvement projects that were, last year, you remember they were kind of scattered around town. Water Tower #1 demolition, and then the Reed Park parking lot were some of the highlights. We completed the citywide street condition assessment update and also updated the pavement management plan. You may recall that was our ICON is the system we use, and there was a refresh of that system last year. We do it on a 4-year cycle. We implemented the maintenance projects with Public Works, seal coating and crack sealing, excuse me. And a lot of coordination and back and forth with some large projects in town, namely the Highway 36, CASA 17 interchange, but also there's been some projects on County Road 13 as well as Manning Avenue, CASA 15. Another really big one under technology and planning was we were able to implement a citywide GIS system with both public-facing maps for land use, but we also have internal resources and utilities for our use. We're going to continue building those systems into the future.
What's that a picture of?
That is a picture of a drainage way. I can't remember exactly where, but last year, some of the neighborhoods, they're kind of tucked into the woods, and backyards will drain to a ditch. Over time, that ditch gets overgrown with buckthorn volunteer trees. Debris gets in there. So part of the project is to clean those drainage ways up. So that's what that is. Got the erosion control mat over the top of it to keep the ground stable and allow seed to come up. So looking into 2026, been before you so far this winter and spring with a number of things, but again, looking to construct well 6 and design the south water treatment plant. That's a big one. It's in progress right now. Complete the siting study for the north water treatment plants near as there's a new permit coming out in 2026 with some new requirements. So transportation and capital improvements delivering the 2026 projects. So we have the South 14 water main just right out here by City Hall, but also the 2026 neighborhood improvements off of Inwood Avenue. And then continuing to coordinate with the county and MnDOT on all the projects in town. Again, with 36 and CASA 17 kicking off here, closing, starting the 1st of June essentially, that's going to occupy a lot of our time. Under planning and development, we're gonna continue to provide engineering support for private developments, both reviews and construction in the field. And then supporting the 2050 comprehensive plan update, which we talked about a little earlier tonight. That's what I got.
Thank you.
Mayor and council members and also Administrator Miller, thank you for giving the sheriff's office the opportunity to be part of the annual report. I think this is the first time that we've been part of it. In addition to what I'm gonna talk about tonight, in the full report, there's some statistics in there from 25 and some past years as well to compare to, as well as our organizational chart. I'll start with the Sheriff's Office mission. The mission of the Washington County Sheriff's Office is to work in partnership with the community to provide quality public safety services in a responsible manner through innovation, leadership, and the cooperation of dedicated people. When we're looking at some of our core services, obviously our patrol deputies is the most visible aspect of the Sheriff's Office. Residents are going to see them moving around the community on a regular basis. These deputies strive to deliver productive and responsive services in a consistent, unbiased, and timely manner, including traffic enforcement, responding to calls for service, ordinance enforcement, and general public safety with community education and interaction at the forefront. In addition to some of those core services you're gonna see our patrol deputies providing, the Sheriff's Office also provides investigative services, our drug task force, human trafficking unit, canine SWAT, water perks and trails, and many, many more services as well. When we look at our 2025 highlights, traffic enforcement was a big portion of what we did last year. We focused a lot on the Lake Elmo Avenue corridor with a lot of concerns coming in from citizens with traffic due to the Manning Avenue project closing that roadway down, and as well with a lot of construction traffic. We also got a lot of support from our community impact unit, which focuses on traffic, so these also supplemented our patrol deputies with some of that traffic enforcement. The implementation of our community service officer program. These CSOs assist our deputies with animal complaints, dog complaints, parking issues, ordinance enforcement, patrolling parks. These CSOs support our deputies and allow them to focus on reoccurring city issues. Connecting with residents through community engagement is also a priority for us. Last year, our deputies attended over 15 community events, including National Night Out, city celebrations, school book readings, canine demonstrations, neighborhood watch, Rotary presentations, etc. A few other things I'd like to highlight are some milestones for a few of our deputies in the contract. Sergeant Jacobson was recognized for 20 years of service, as well as received the Meritorious Service Award from the Sheriff's Office for 19 years of canine service. Deputy Joe Maloney was recognized for 5 years of service. And Deputy Mike Lindholm, who has been a longtime deputy in the Lake Elmo contract, he was recognized for 30 years of service and is coming up for retirement here shortly. Looking at 2026, we're going to continue to focus on that traffic enforcement and make sure we're addressing those concerns from residents. I know we have a lot of pending road construction projects that are coming up, so we're already planning on addressing those traffic concerns that those will create for us. We're implementing a new 12-hour schedule with our deputies. By us moving to a 12-hour schedule, it increases our coverage in the city during our peak or higher call volume times. So we're upgrading our body camera systems and our records management systems. And we also look to continue with all those community events that we've done in the past and continue to be a part of those. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you know me, I'm Sarah, last but not least, and I'm with Kennedy and Graven. And as you know, you only see me, but there are 35 other people that I work with that are at your disposal. And I just wanted to kind of go through some of the other things people do for the city of Lake Elmo in my firm. One thing would be labor and employment matters. We have somebody that specializes in those areas that assists the city with any labor and employment matters that come up. We also have somebody that works on telecommunications matters. So if you have a cell tower lease or a cable issue, we usually talk to that person. We also have somebody, Jim Thompson, who handles the litigation related to the water appropriation permit. And we also have somebody specializing in construction issues and construction contract disputes that come up from time to time. And then finally, we have somebody that works on condemnation and eminent domain matters, which we don't have a lot of here in Lake Elmo. Primarily as a city attorney, I work on general matters related to the city. That would be meeting attendance, ordinance drafting, review, contract review, code enforcement issues, data practices issues, and open meeting law issues. So anything related to those kind of general matters is what I primarily work on. And then my specialty is real estate. So the things I'm going to highlight for you tonight are basically real estate related matters. So in 2025, 3 of the larger projects that I worked on with the city are kind of all real estate related. The first one was assisting the city in the acquisition of the Olson and Jurek properties. Those are the ball field properties. We drafted the purchase agreements for both of those properties and then represented the city and assisted with the closing on the purchases of both those properties. The second real estate matter that we worked on was assisting the city with the redevelopment of the former fire station and parks building properties. We helped staff review the request for proposals that went out to the developers, and then we assisted the city with the preparation of the properties for sale. So far, that's involved reviewing the title evidence and also putting together the plat of the property that just got approved. And then finally, we assisted the city with the acquisition of the property for the new water treatment plant. We've drafted an option agreement for that. We've also drafted a right of entry and drafted a purchase agreement. So those are kind of the things we worked on in 2025. Those are things I personally worked on. And then for 2026, I plan on, there's been a number of code enforcement issues that seem to keep coming up. So we'll be assisting the city with code enforcement matters, just on how certain properties may be cleaned up in the city that are having code enforcement violations, and then also looking at the city's regulations on nuisance abatement in order to determine if there's any improvements that could be made to those regulations to make cleaning up properties a little bit easier. And then secondly, assisting the city with private development projects. There's always a lot of development going on in the city. So there are a lot of legal documents that go along with development projects. Primarily easements, stormwater maintenance easements agreements, landscaping license agreements, development agreements, and stormwater reuse agreements. That's our newest one, and then right-of-way and utility easements. So we assist staff with the drafting and review of all those documents, and also negotiating with developers on the development agreement and development project. And then finally, for 2026, we'll be assisting the city with the continued redevelopment of the former fire station parks building properties, and that will involve drafting a development or a purchase agreement and negotiating with the developers for those projects, and then representing and assisting the city with the closing on those properties when it comes time.
All right, and with that, we're looking forward to this next year, doing a lot of the same, keeping busy. And since it is already April, we've already started working on a lot of the 2026 priorities. So our next steps would be to communicate this through our communication channels with the community, post on the website. Also looking for any other opportunities to share this with the community. The mayor will be attending a State of the City with some other Washington County cities, so perhaps you can use this as a tool or anything else that you guys can think of. But we're looking for any feedback you have, questions, and then now or in the future, any changes or additional information you'd like to see for next year's report.
Thank you. You know, I'll just This is, you know, you go day to day through activities and things that you do, but to be able to look back on a full year of things that staff has done, that the city has done, that council's been involved with, it's quite a bit. And it's really well done and put together. I think it, you know, provides that information that I think our residents like to see. You know, what are they doing over there? Helps answer a lot of those questions. What's going on in our city? Why do they have to do these things? I appreciate it very much, and yes, it will help me in, at the meeting in May for sure. Appreciate it. Anybody else wants to say anything, feel free.
Yeah, I'll just add to that as well. I guess two comments. One, just in general, just an awesome staff. You guys all do such a great job, and this is really cool to see it all come together. Like you mentioned, there's a lot that goes on, but seeing it all tied together into those common themes, I guess that's my second kind of comment. You know, is to Administrator Miller, like, you're doing a great job with keeping the team focused on what we've set out to do. Again, with all the things that happen day to day, it's easy to veer off from those things, but you're keeping the team focused on those goals, on those objectives, and then being able to show that to us, to the community. I think it goes again to the transparency that we're trying to have, and you're doing a great job with that, and I think I really appreciate the transparency. And I knew when you first came on, that's what I was very excited to see. You had a lot of vision for that, and seeing it come to fruition now is really exciting.
Thank you. I agree, but I couldn't have done it without everyone else supporting me and saying, okay, we'll go along with this. And so staff has been working on this probably since November is maybe when we started talking about it, December, and so it took everyone.
And really good pictures. Whoever got all these pictures. Cat, they're okay. Those were very good.
I mean, the only original thing I have to add to that, and I fully agree with both of you, is that, to me, a report like this shows the culture of city staff right now. By being able to produce a report like this that is, I mean, I don't know what the right terms are to use, but this is the type of report that I would expect from a city that has its ducks in a row, that has its priorities correct, that has staff that are doing the job isn't the right phrase. It's knowing how to do it correctly as a public servant. And it's, to me, it makes me think of a workplace environment where you're doing things the right way for the right reasons on behalf of the public. This is what happens when all those things come together. This is one aspect, and we're starting to see it, as Matt was saying, we're seeing it more and more frequently, obviously, with the work that's done, but this is yet another example. It's a large one. Charles has a lot to memorize before his State of the City address.
Memorizing, print this stuff out, man.
But yeah, I appreciate it, very much so.
Yeah, I don't have anything new to add from everything that was said. Everything was said very well. I just want to say thank you to you, Nicole, everybody on staff. You guys have had an amazing year, so thank you. And I know that we dropped the 100-year anniversary in your lap very last minute, and we appreciate you guys being flexible and delivering an awesome event. So thank you.
All right, so next on the docket is agenda procedures.
Yeah. Mayor and council, so this was discussed at the workshop last month in March. And just wanted to recap, this is coming back for discussion, further discussion, but a couple items that were brought up and we need some further direction on. We did not create a draft ordinance because we're still a little unsure on exactly what direction the council wants to go, but items that were brought up were adding items to the current agenda with the 4/5 vote during the adoption of the agenda, with understanding that no action would be taken on that topic at that night. And then also adding things to the next available meeting agenda, which would not necessarily be a workshop, with a simple majority vote. And then We are looking for some more direction from the council on a desired timeline for when when we would be having staff do some research and create documents and recommendations. What I did add to this staff report that was different from the first one was trying to outline a little bit more on how we use our future agenda tracker that we include in all the council packets, as well as to visually kind of show on a calendar our deadlines, that we have internal deadlines for Tuesday mornings, or Tuesday afternoons for the following week's packet. So that gives me opportunity to review the items that staff have prepared and then ask any questions or make any modifications as well. So council requested this come back, so for some more discussion. That's it.
So I can't remember, I think, were we all here at the workshop when we discussed this last?
I was in the Florida Keys.
That's
so-
right, that's right.
And it was warmer here than there.
So I can't, so this is trying to answer the question to being able to get something on an agenda without it having to take potentially 3 weeks to have discussion on it. You know, in my 6 years here, that's happened very infrequently, and I wouldn't expect it to happen on a regular basis. But it would be nice to have the ability to discuss something without it taking a long time. If there's energy behind it, and it needs to be with a rapid response. So I think what we discussed, like it's said in the memo here, I think Councilmember Dragisich, it was discussed about having if somebody wanted to put something on the agenda for that meeting or add an agenda item, it would be a 4/5 vote during the adoption of the agenda. And there would be discussion, no action taken place on the topics. Simple majority vote just to add it to the workshop or the next meeting. And so I think sometimes the one question that I'm hearing is, in order for staff to be able to react to the request, I think we'd have to be cognizant of the fact that our agenda item may not have adequate data or information that staff would have for us to be able to make any headway on something.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly reasonable, Mayor, that, if we brought up something that required a lot of staff research, I think, let's say we go through the 4/5 vote and we're having the discussion. Staff could advise council during that discussion that the data required to provide support may take 3 weeks, for instance, to get together. Certainly, we rely on staff to get that kind of information for us, but our current system, you're actually wrong, can take 7 weeks to get something on an agenda, depending on when you put it in. Just seems overly cumbersome, and understand why it is that way. That does the protection for the 4 out of 5 people and discussion only at that first meeting, but it gives some ability to move things just a little faster, and a lot of things we do may not require a lot of research, like talking about the 250th celebration. So I'm very, very sensitive to the fact that if we were to come up with, should we build a Statue of Liberty in the downtown district, it could take 2 months to get the information together. And as council, we have to respect that staff has limited time to donate as well. And thus, that discussion, I think, allows them to give us that input and feedback. And I would hope that we would be reasonable and say, okay, let's then set this for not the next meeting, but 2 meetings out when staff can get the research together. But just being able to move things a little faster than the current situation. And I was hoping in the 4/5 that it would avoid some of the reasons why you have the ordinance that you have now, because I'm very, very respectful of the fact that councils can be dysfunctional. Maybe this one isn't, maybe we are, that's a matter of everyone's opinion, but things can get out of hand a lot of ways, and the system we have now kind of provides a guideline to avoid having a whole lot of dysfunction. I think this strikes a middle balance, personally.
Clarifying question for council. Are we allowed as a city to put in ordinances a limiting action to say on council meetings, it's possible that there's an agenda item where we're not allowed to take an action?
Yes. We have that now.
Are we allowed to put that in ordinance to say in this process, after a 4/5 vote, council is not authorized to take any action on that agenda item that they do through this process?
It's, let's say, for discussion only.
Well, my question is for council, though.
Mr. Mayor, members of the.
Philadelphia law degree.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I mean, anything that you need to take action on is going to be put on your agenda by staff. You know, if it's like we had tonight, the preliminary plat. I think that, we had a deadline on that, then you need to take action by mid-April. But if it's something that council's bringing up, I think you can limit it by ordinance and say you need a 4/5 vote to bring that up.
So say in the year 2029, Mayor Anderson, Johnson, Olson, and 3 others ignore that rule, and they indeed take an action and they pass a resolution to say this shall happen. What's the mechanism what's the remedy to prevent that?
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that's a violation of the city's ordinance, and that's why we put it in the ordinance. We put a lot of things in the ordinance that, due to the dysfunction back in 2016, that's not normally in the code. It's usually just rules of procedure, policy, but we felt like we needed more accountability from the council that they were going to follow those things, and that's why we put those in an ordinance. Because then they were violating the city's ordinance, and, I mean, luckily they did not, say, well, I don't care, I'm violating the city's ordinance, but I guess they could be prosecuted for that if need
'Cause
be.
that's my concern. Who has standing to enforce that? To say those 4 council members violated their own ordinance, or to prevent them that order from being carried out? Say I guess, because I can't say I agree, this is questions. Say those 4 members allocate an appropriation for a funding item, but it's something that was never researched, didn't go through the process. Who would have standing to prevent that the next day or the next week?
I think it would be either the public or the prosecutor.
Because would it be a misdemeanor to
Yeah,
violate?
it'd be a misdemeanor.
Oh, sweet, okay.
And that's what I think helped quell some of the issues back in 2016, because we were able to say, it says in the code, you can't do this.
So we can put in the code that is a misdemeanor if through the 4/5 process, you end up taking an official action instead of just
Yeah.
discussion only. Okay.
So one other question along that line. There's a process where the city council can waive the requirements of an ordinance.
Where is that?
I don't know, I'm asking that question. I
No.
mean, do we, because sometimes we have an ordinance that requires concrete sidewalks, and we say we're gonna allow bituminous, so we're waiving an ordinance requirement.
That would be probably a variance.
Variance
I don't
based
think
on
you can, the
condition.
council can grant itself a variance from its
Okay,
procedures.
that's the question I have.
Yeah, or why have the procedures, I guess.
Right.
You
I didn't know
know,
if
if you
by-
can say, oh, never mind,
I didn't know if by unanimous vote they could waive the requirement. That was my question.
yeah.
No, I mean, that's better yet, because then that prevents what your concern is addressing.
Yeah, because. Not gonna say it 'cause it's not a question.
Well, we're not even
We're
voting
not,
on
we're not
anything.
voting on
Yeah, we're not
anything,
voting on
so
anything.
it's
We'll split it.
basically, this is a discussion.
Yes, my underlying concern with any type of thing is a rule is only as useful as having an enforcement mechanism. Otherwise, it's futile. That's my bias.
But by the same token, there's nothing that prevent a council from doing something against this ordinance, we could say, the heck with the ordinance, we're gonna put it on the agenda tonight and vote on it.
Well, apparently it's a misdemeanor.
Understand, but I mean, that doesn't change what we currently would have in that regard.
I mean, I guess even earlier today, I thought maybe the 4/5 vote was not really a helpful thing, but I can understand. I don't think it's really going to be coming up often, and we also have the ability to have a special meeting. But if the rest of the council is supportive of the 4/5, I don't necessarily have an issue per se.
Can special meetings be called by 2 council members, right?
Or the mayor.
Or the mayor, right? Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm looking at this a little bit from a different perspective. I'm not looking at it from the perspective of what happens if we have a dysfunctional council. I actually think this makes us a more functional council, period. And I kind of brought this up at the previous discussion, and I'm kind of sticking with this, is if an item gets brought up at the time of a meeting, and both staff and council has no time to think about it, prepare for it, I think I'm nervous of a couple things happening. One, there's gonna be improper information given. I think there could be information that's omitted, not on purpose, just because it wasn't, people weren't able to think about it, prepare for it. Fully vetted, right, from a staff perspective. I think from a council perspective, and again, maybe this is just me individually, but if there's a topic that comes up that I am not comfortable with, I don't have an understanding for, normally that's where I'd have time to prepare for it and come ready to ask those questions. Now, I know it's just a discussion, but that discussion is what, it's what influences what gets brought back to the council meeting. It influences what ultimately happens, I think, pretty heavily. So if we can't have clear direction at that time, we're gonna give unclear direction, and then I'm gonna have 2 weeks, or staff's gonna have 2 weeks to go think about this, get the actual information. It's gonna come back, it's gonna be a completely different thing presented. Now the public has heard 2 different things, we get confusion. I think this is gonna make council, I think it's gonna make our decisions more dysfunctional. So I know it can be frustrating having inefficiencies or with government things taking longer times, but I think it's on purpose when we have as many stakeholders as we do. So I really feel like even though this was maybe initially put in place because of a dysfunctional council, I think it's kind of forced us to stay functional and keep everything functional. And so it's not so much just us, it's because of the framework that we're playing in. It keeps us on track.
So a member of the city staff can put something on the council days before the meeting. It's our agenda, but elected official can take 7 weeks to get something on the agenda, and you think that's reasonable?
Well, so give me an example of a time where a staff puts something on the agenda that it isn't something that we have previously talked about, something that's been brought up, something that we've asked to be as part of our yearly objectives or goals. I can't think of anything where it was like a random item brought up. Now, yes, there may say, hey, based off of next month, so-and-so director is not gonna be able to make it, we need to put it on this agenda as a result of that. Like, I think that's kind of a logistical call when they make that point. Now, if you can come up with an example of where they just kind of cherry pick a random item, throw it on the agenda, yeah, I have concerns about that as well. I haven't seen that
So on the,
happen.
go down the agenda for this evening's meeting, how many of those things did you see before this meeting?
Well,
before the agenda
there are
came out?
items that we've talked about in workshops. There's items that we set as goals and objectives during our planning.
Really? So we talked about the development that we were working on tonight, where we had the bituminous path.
Well, how long have they been working on that?
How long have you been working on it? That's the question. My point is, we get it on
I can answer your
Thursday.
question. I can answer your question on that. I've been able to work on it since Thursday when I got the packet at least. If it got to me as we start the meeting, I have no time to look into it. I have no time to ask questions to community members, to get that feedback, to do my own research. I have no time to do that. Neither does the staff. And I think, so that still is just kind of, again, I might be the only person feeling that way, and I do feel like you know, if we are gonna move forward with this, I do at least think the 4/5 is a good compromise. I think then the staff is gonna have to be very, what's the right word? They're gonna have to be very transparent and clear if they don't know the answer to something. They're gonna have to be very clear and transparent if they haven't received clear direction from us. Because if we haven't given clear direction, if they have unclear answers, that's gonna lead us to give unclear and bad requests for what we brought back to the next meeting. And then that's gonna create dysfunction and chaos at the next meeting.
So I have a question just for clarification. So with this 4/5 vote, what is your objective to get something on the agenda? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it the same day? Like, what does that look like?
I think we have meetings we have 2 meetings a month,
Yep.
okay? So if we're tonight, we're at the first meeting of the month. It would be nice if we could get something on the next agenda, 2 weeks from today, rather than 7 weeks from today. I just think it's outrageous that as an elected official, it's our city council meeting, it's not city staff meeting, it's city council meeting. We are the council, yet we have no ability to put something on the agenda sometime for the next meeting. We want to take a motion tonight, let's put this on the agenda for the next meeting, we can't do it on this ordinance.
Sure.
We can put on the next workshop. Unfortunately, it's not 11 days before the next workshop, so we'd have to go to the workshop in May. And then after we get out of the workshop in May, maybe either the last meeting in May or the first meeting in June, we could get it on. 2 months or more for a council person to get something on the agenda is outrageous, in my opinion. I've never seen
Are
a
we
city in that
not,
regard.
are we not able to, let's say we have workshop next Tuesday. If we wanted something, are we not able to put something on the agenda for the workshop next Tuesday for discussion?
Nope, 11 days in advance is what the ordinance
Right,
says.
currently the ordinance doesn't allow that, but I like to talk about the logistical implications for that. Our packets go out Thursday,
Yep.
2 days from
Yep.
now, for next Tuesday. A lot of the items that are on there, staff have been working on for a while. Some of them are quicker, but some take a long time. You pick it up, you do some work on it, you realize it's taking you down a different path, whatever, you need more time, and you're working on it, maybe not consistently for a long time, but you're working on it. And the internal deadline was today, for me to be able to look and see what staff's prepared, so they have to have all their materials done before this meeting today. So I can look at it, understand it, ask any questions, talk about what I think the council might ask, if things are missing, and we work together. So that just gives them tomorrow, and then we put up the packet Thursday. Yeah, so that's kind of what we need. I mean, however the council decides, staff will follow, but I just wanted to illustrate that if you were to add something to next Tuesday's agenda, you're giving staff tomorrow, and then part of Thursday to research it, and it just doesn't seem like
Understood.
a really good idea.
Councilmember Holtz.
Well, in regards to the earlier question, like, the preliminary plat, no, it hasn't come before council, but, we all know this, there's statutory requirements for when a land use application has to be acted upon. It went to planning commission, there was a public hearing, we weren't there, but we watched it. So I don't think that's your intent for an example. I think your intent for an example would be things that are council ad hoc creations, correct? I don't think that's really the type of example you're looking for where we didn't see it. Well, yeah, we're not supposed to see it before that because it's going through the land use application process. Is that fair?
Yes.
So
And we couldn't bring something like that up on the agenda anyway because they have to go through a land use process first.
Right.
One other thing I wanted to point out is, currently, operationally, we've, told our department heads that they don't have to attend every meeting unless they have something on the agenda. So if you do add something to the agenda and you want to discuss it with the 4/5 vote, and you want to have staff there to vet out and tell you how long they need for research, we might not have the right staff person in the room, so.
Well, that would be a reason not to have a 4/5 vote. right?
Yeah, yep.
If we looked around and said, well, Pete's not here, it's a public works item, we can't really discuss it fully. I mean, that, guess I'm looking for a balance that allows something to be discussed without action item. I guess that would be my recommendation, is understanding the ordinance probably keeps us from being dysfunctional, but I think if we put in the language that says it's not an actionable item, it can be discussed as an added agenda item. I don't really, quite honestly, see that coming up very often at all, but if there is a compromise, that would be the only one I'd be willing to accept.
Maybe a compromise is, we can bring it up in a 4/5 vote, it will go on the next council agenda, next regular meeting agenda. That would give, we'd have no discussion, and it'd give 2 or 3 weeks for research.
Well, it would have to give a time frame for staff to address appropriately, but if we didn't have any discussion, then there wouldn't be able to have any direction on what the question is, though.
I agree.
So then that's kind of a moot point.
I mean, it's the horse before the cart, or cart before the horse. Wow, it's 9:30. Because it could, you're right and you're right. Like, yes, there are sometimes lengths, they're intentional. It's so we don't do stupid things. We have been in a very advantageous position because of this policy, which was put in place because of bad things. So we've had a luxury of benefiting from that process and making sure we are doing things in a vetted way with the assistance of staff. I don't disagree. I can understand why it is frustrating to have that type of delay. I also don't, the type of situation where this would come up in a 4/5 vote, I think would also be the exact same reason we would call a special meeting. That's the hard part I'm having, is I can't conceptualize a situation where we would do a 4/5 vote that night versus a special meeting the next day.
And the difference in staff preparation is 8 hours?
They have one day to say there's an emergency that's gonna cost $100,000 to fix, and the statutory authority for that requires us to have a vote for it right now. Like, I'm thinking of the worst possible situation. Other than that, I can't think of a situation where a special meeting would not remedy it, the underlying concern to say, we need to discuss this tonight. Because I assume, unless you're thinking more so things that are not emergencies, but you want to be able to discuss.
I'm thinking, I was referring to emergencies. I know we can have an emergency meeting.
Yeah.
You know, if the roof caves in on the fire hall and we need to have an emergency meeting, yeah, we can have it. I was trying to just say, let's just have a discussion of it and put it on the agenda 2 weeks from now. The purpose of the discussion was just to find out if there's any, we could come to a consensus. There's no reason to put it on the agenda.
So now I'm hearing, put it on the agenda for 2 weeks from now, not the next meeting.
Well, yeah, it's the next regular council meeting. It could be 2 or 3 weeks, depending on what point it comes up.
A non-workshop.
Yeah, a non-workshop, yeah.
Okay. Ms. Miller, I see you put some examples in here, and I'm seeing that, but it's not clear. I'll just pull Lysanti, for example. It says 2 council members or mayor to add to the regular council agenda. But that doesn't indicate if it's at the meeting or if it's prior to the meeting. It seems like, White Bear Lake adds things to the regular agenda before it's adopted. Likely going under discussion, no memo, no staff time. So it does occur in some other municipalities, correct?
Yep, so the responses I included were responses from other city administrators, city managers, just letting me know how they handle it. It was not taken directly out of their code. Some of them don't, have this specified in their code.
Yeah.
But just to kind of get a feel of how they might do it. just to show you kind of the breadth of the differences in communities, was my intent with that.
Okay.
Wyoming is interesting if the request comes with sufficient lead time. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
And with
that's-
my communication with the other administrators and my leadership network, it was kind of, they kind of work together as a team
Yeah.
to see what what's on staff's plate, when's the next meeting that it could happen. That's also been previous experience of mine. It is looking together to see, okay, we already have these items on our next workshop. We're gonna add another thing where it's a priority list shift and working together. But Lake Elmo has this in the code for a reason. And so I guess my ask is, if you do change anything about the timeline, it would be nice so staff knows like what kind of timeline you're looking for.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could change it to be like other communities I am familiar with where you just talk it out, but it's up to you guys.
One thing I'd say about the two council people or the mayor to add it to the agenda, still it goes back to, it's got to go in the next workshop, which could be 11 days away. The other problem is, as an elected official, I can call Councilperson Hearn and say, you know, Hearn, man, I'm thinking about asking to add running water to the next workshop. Would you support me on this so we can each call Nicole and tell her to put it on? If he says, no, I don't believe in that, then I'm out, because I can't contact a third one. I violated the open meeting law. So I got one shot to get a second council person to, to go along with me, and then I'm done. That's the other problem I have with that.
pick wisely.
Pick wisely, yeah. So,
Another clarification, just for your conversation, is looking for more information on if you want to continue to have these type of discussions, which is, kind of feels like a workshop discussion, then you want to do these at regular agendas? Should we look at modifying the agenda to have a discussion section too? And then I did throw in there an option, just if we're getting away from our traditional our discussions being had at workshops, then perhaps you want to look at maybe doing a workshop before each regular meeting and splitting the work up so it's more frequently, but it's the same amount of work split up between two, just some options.
I'll give my feedback on that right away. I don't think we should. I think, again, part of the reason we've been so focused on going after our goals and our objectives is because we know if we want to work on those, we have to be proactive and we have to plan for it at that next workshop. We have to make sure we're looking ahead and putting it on that meeting. I see if that happens where we have a workshop at every single meeting, I think kind of similar to like when we had the 250th celebration discussion come up and we weren't able to give any good suggestions to staff on what we were even looking for from it. I think it is just gonna create more noise, less clarity.
Yeah, I think this process brought stability to an unstable council, and we've reaped the benefits from it, and I don't think we should be, and again, I see both sides. 7 weeks is a long time, but I feel like it's there for a reason, to help staff, to help us with our thoughts about everything. And with the bituminous example, we can watch those planning commission meetings and be a part of them, and if we put something on the agenda, you guys don't have any time to plan for that. So I think it's there for a reason. It doesn't feel broke, so I don't feel like we should try to fix it at this point.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to add one thing, because I know some people were saying it was getting late. Back when we didn't have this rule, that's what happened. Somebody would bring it up, and then they would fight about it for a couple hours. And then there'd be scrambling. If it got on the agenda, then it would be, here, I'm passing this information out, everybody read it. because we had council members preparing information to give out to the council to make a decision on at the meeting. And
Right.
that put a lot of time into the meeting where we were not getting done till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So if you like to go to bed early,
We
just
also
think
have
about
an
that.
ordinance that the meeting won't go past midnight.
Yes, you have a curfew.
Curfew for adults.
Yeah.
Is there a compromise with, I can't remember exactly how you said it, what the logistical issue would be of if we had something that we wanted to add to a workshop today, right? So first Tuesday meeting of the month, we'd really like to see it on the workshop a week from now, so we could talk about it at the second city council meeting of the month. Is there some sort of, because again, at least then if we said today that we want to discuss this at the next workshop.
That works?
We don't have to wait a month and a week, we can wait a week.
Yes.
Then staff has a day
But that
to
was-
prepare it for workshop coming up.
Well, but there's
that's-
really
okay, that's
not much
right.
preparation for workshop. The workshop is discussion for council on what we'd ask, and it still doesn't mean that the next week is gonna give, means we can ask for stuff, but I mean, the understanding needs to be that you're not gonna get it in another week. It may not give ample enough time for that to be fully vetted for proper, if you're gonna take action on something.
You know, we don't take action at workshops, we just discuss it.
No, but I mean, so if we discuss it at a workshop, Councilmember Dragus, is what I'm saying is, and we come up with some, direction to give to staff, that's not to say that they'd be able to deliver that information, cause, okay, so Tuesdays,
Well, I agree. I agree
right?
with that, yep.
You wouldn't have enough turnaround time to get that information. It would kick it out, you know, a couple weeks still,
Yep. It may not be at the next meeting, maybe 2 meetings from then.
right?
Yep, that's not a problem at all. That expedites it beyond, so we're not waiting 7 weeks to get it on the workshop. But I fully understand that if we're asking to, you know, reinvent nuclear power, it may take them more than a week to get that information.
If it was the second council meeting of the month, then they'd have, I guess the situation wouldn't apply then anyway, so never mind.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And so we wouldn't have it at the second council meeting of the month, we'd have the first council meeting of the following month.
So really, the only time this is a concern for you is when if there's something you want to discuss at the first city council meeting of the month, that's where it becomes an issue for you.
Well, if we took it up at the second council, or first one, yeah, I guess so, it just, it does take 7 weeks. I'm just trying to get the time down below 7 weeks to get it on a workshop, and then you're 9 weeks or 8 weeks to get it on the council agenda.
All right, so, all right, now, hearing that, the gist of the whole thing is to reduce, I think there's gotta be something where we can still reduce it from 11 weeks or whatever it is to get it on a council meeting,
No, I
or
think it's
7 weeks, 7
11
weeks.
days.
11 days, yeah.
11 days. If we can have something that even if it's discussion at a workshop, but it's not gonna be for the next council meeting, it would be nice to be able to discuss things, to give direction and clarify things at a workshop without waiting a full month.
We will, I don't know how we would write this in a code, but my concern with it is just, if council votes to add something to the next workshop for discussion, is what if the staff person that needs to be there isn't available? We have vacations and so forth, so I just don't know how, because that's the point of the workshop, is to hear the discussion and then talk about what
Right.
type of resources, have the staff weigh in, ask those questions.
Understood?
So if there's something going to be on a workshop agenda item, and that council person, I mean, the staff person's not gonna be available that night, they're gonna be in Hawaii,
Yeah.
do you then take it off the workshop and put on the next one?
Right now, staff is able to manage our time that way. That's that future agendas tracker. If staff has a planned vacation, we give them that flexibility to say, you know, to balance their workload and to pick a meeting they're actually gonna be present at. So that's currently how we do it. Within reason, they don't get to say, okay, well, I'm not, I don't wanna do that, I'm not doing that for 6 months, that's not how it goes. But, as you can see from the annual report, just all the different priorities they have and the future agenda tracker as well, so.
So, but our departments all have more than one staff person. So if the department, if Jason's not available, someone else from the staff can come and talk about the issue. Why does that have to be a single staff person? You know, that's what we have departments. What if you got hit by a bus and wasn't gonna be around the next night? You'd find someone to come and stand at that microphone?
Well, we do have very limited staff. I mean, we do have multiple people on staff, but they don't all do the same job or do the research. I mean, I guess having this discussion March 10th when I was not able to be here, you know, that was one meeting I knew I was gonna miss being out of the country. I prepared the staff memo and gave it to you. Now Clark was able to stand in because of his previous history with the city, being around in 2015, 2016, but yeah, I mean, there's not always someone that necessarily could stand in.
I'll go back to what I said.
Not everyone has assistants.
We have discussion on the agenda, and the staff person who's supposed to talk about it, something happens, they get an emergency.
Yeah.
We don't take it off the agenda, some other staff person stands in and talks about it.
No, we have in the past. We've had staff that come up with illness right before a meeting and we amend the agenda. If they can't be here, you know.
So you amend the agenda, but a city council person can't do it.
We can ask for items to be removed. We do it.
We can
I'm
remove.
sorry I brought the issue up.
No, we can remove agenda items.
I mean, I'll just, I do want to figure out a way to make this work, but I feel like this system works, and I feel like there's too many risks to changing it. I almost even hesitate, I wish I almost wouldn't even have said anything there about the workshop thing, because again, it goes back to, well, now they have one day to prepare, and I think there is a reason that we've been able to be as effective as we have over the last year with the goals, and it's because when something gets brought to a meeting, it is fully vetted. And I've seen this time and time again, you know, where it goes from the planning commission, it gets to us, and the planning commission has a 2-hour discussion, and we have a 2-minute discussion. Because it's been able to been fully vetted, really well thought out, because they had that proper information, the time to think through it. And so I think it actually speeds things up in the end. Even though we're waiting a couple extra weeks to talk about it, we're speeding that process up rather than having to wait, say, okay, maybe we need to table this because we don't have the full information, or probably as a worse situation is making a decision with not all the information or erroneous information. That's probably the worst situation that comes from this, so.
Doesn't feel like we're gonna get consensus on this as far as giving direction on a change. And I will just add that we do have the ability to call a special meeting if one is needed in order to bring up an item. I just don't see, I see this conversation going on for a while longer without reaching a consensus.
So is it something we have brought to the meeting and vote on, or?
There's nothing to vote
No,
on.
like have it brought to a meeting to vote on changing that ordinance, or?
Well,
or
that
say
would,
no?
that would require giving staff direction on what to change.
Well, I mean, I
Otherwise,
think we've had,
otherwise you leave it the same.
got it.
If there's no
Yeah.
change, there's no vote.
I guess I'm just kind of thinking this from the perspective, right? We have workshops where we have discussions and we don't give clear direction unanimously.
Right.
It still has to get brought to us to vote on. Is this a little different situation where you're just saying, hey, if we don't have unanimous?
It's not unanimous, there's not a consensus.
So if we don't have consensus on
There's-
this, you
there's-
just don't even want to have it brought to a meeting for a vote.
There's, the way I'm hearing it, there's two leave it the same, two looking for compromise, and, well, you know, three looking for a compromise, or, but not having a real, direct way to make that happen without it kind of turning into something that none of us want to happen. At least I don't see that, how to make that without it becoming a potential issue. I understand if we need to have a special meeting, then we'll call a special meeting. I mean, that's kind of that's the fallback position. And if a council member can't make it, we need a quorum, we need 3 people, and that's what we'll do. Or at least that's my opinion. That doesn't mean, you know, I'm just making a recommendation. I think we all see an opportunity there. We don't have an answer to make it. There's pros and cons, and there's no way to make the pros without the cons. If there was a way, I'm sure we'd figured it out. All right, I'm going to close discussion on that. Going to move into the 250th anniversary of the USA celebration discussion.
Back on March 10th, the city council discussed this and then wanted to continue their discussions. I believe after council was going to reach out to some of our local organizations to see if partnerships are taking a lead, but staff was not directed to do any additional work. This was just to be brought back for a discussion tonight.
So currently there are 3 events: Lake Elmo Night Out, Light Up Lake Elmo, 4th of July Kitty Parade. I guess I'll ask Councilmember Dragic, since he did attend a Connect Lake Elmo meeting where they talked about the 250th?
They really didn't talk much about it.
No?
You know, they wonder if the city was willing to, you know, do something to support that celebration, but I don't know. I guess we have to put it on a workshop. It takes another 7 weeks, and the 4th of July will be behind us.
All right. So I guess the one thing that's part of this, and, you know, we're in April now, so we're 2 months ahead of where we were last year, and I do think that, I don't know if other council members want to chime in on this, but I got a lot of feedback from residents that they really liked the event. I would like to try and have an annual event for the city that uses, and we don't have budget this year, I understand that. We did not put it in the budget from last year. Budget process was prior to that event in September. But I would like us to consider that, whether 250th celebration's appropriate on the annual thing, or, you know, I was hoping something could be done at the 4th of July, because that's really kind of when it happens, 250th. Not that we couldn't say something on an annual event.
The Connect Lake Elmo was thinking, you know, more of an annual event and not 4th of July weekend, but kind of an annual event. And since this is our 250th celebration, it'd be something, you know, that would maybe be the theme in this year, but future years it might be a different theme. But they were not thinking 4th of July weekend, they were
Okay.
thinking some other weekend.
I mean, several thoughts. I agree, long-term, something similar last year on an annual basis. I don't think we are prepared to do that for this year. We don't have a staff member whose specific duties is outreach and event coordination. Maybe we will down the road. I would say, in terms of July 4th, so July 4th, we have a specific tradition with the Kids Parade, we have National Night Out. I foresee that type of annual thing, adding to National Night Out to add the features from last year's 100th to National Night Out, whether it's the band and fireworks. Those two things right there are probably the things that got the most attention. I mean, at least that was my perspective, are the most attention-seeking things, the things that got the most stories afterwards. Are there ways to bring that to National Night Out?
National Night's Out on a Tuesday.
Well, that sucks.
Making that known.
Well, no one likes to work Wednesdays. So in regards to July 4th parade, given I know that it was cumbersome for staff this past year, are there other things we can do for July 4th to show, yes, this is a unique year in our numbering system, 250 with our way we do numbers, matters more than 249. Is it flags on every light pole? And then we use those every year thereafter. Are there other things, other amenities to add features to the July 4th parade without going as much as we did last year with the 100th? If there aren't, there aren't. But to me, I feel like there are. But I do long-term wise, yes, I think we should have a yearly celebration. But it's hard because we do have the National Night Out, and that is very well attended as well. And I don't want to necessarily duplicate that 2 months earlier.
2 months earlier.
With a July 4th all day.
Or a month earlier, yeah.
A month earlier,
I
yeah.
think
A month earlier.
The Connect Lake Elmo, we're thinking like, the September time, that was kind of their discussion because it seems to fit real well last year.
And were they were more thinking they want city to kind of organize it, run it, or did they give much feedback? Was it just city financially support it?
Well, it obviously financially support, but
Yeah.
there was discussion about, a committee, establishing a committee with the, the civic organizations and the merchants downtown to come up with a plan that would work, and everyone agreed would be in the city, something the city could enjoy and be a broad-based support.
Yeah.
And so kind of thinking, maybe a couple of people from the council, Connect Lake Elmo, Rotary, the merchants downtown. So there'd be this, everyone have some say in what it should be, where it should be, and.
It's a good time frame in that September time frame too. People are back in town.
Yeah, that was the discussion, yeah.
So I do really like that idea. I guess, yeah, it is tough without having budgeted for this year. Obviously, it doesn't mean we can't do it. I guess when I was looking at this, I was thinking more about the 250th thing specifically, so trying to focus around that 4th of July. And I know we talked about this last time. And I think the Connect Lake Elmo already does such a great job with that 4th of July parade. I don't think we need to do another event by any means. Maybe we can add to it. I've heard a lot of residents ask about the flagpoles. It sounds like that's something we used to have on Main Street. I've been asked about that.
Previously, we were told that we couldn't do anything, but then when we asked last year, we can. And I think there's probably a way to get a vendor involved where we can do that
Well, and I reached
the
out
right way.
to American Flagpole Company right in downtown Stillwater just to kind of get a rough idea of, what does that even look like? Obviously I didn't get like a formal bid on this or anything, but it sounds like it could be in that, $150 to $200 per pole range, coming off of the flagpole, so something reasonable. I didn't count how many, lights there are down there that we'd have to put them on, but it doesn't have to be that, but something along that line of some way of enhancing that downtown area, something that we can reuse year after year, so it's not just something that we're doing this year, it's something that we can reuse, you know, potentially it can be used for putting other things up throughout the year, seasonal type things. So I guess that was more my thought, or, you know, like the band, if there was a hit from the block party, right? If it was bringing in the band in addition to that 4th of July parade, somehow like enhancing that parade, I think, was kind of how I was looking at it. But to the point of like an annual event, I do like the idea of, you know, doing something in September. I would still, just as a city, prefer to be less on the financial supporting side of it and more on the logistical, permitting, legal aspect of it, providing the support there however we can, and making it as little red tape as possible for them, and then asking the community and the businesses to really step up and I guess it doesn't have to be the cost that much, right? You know, I like your idea of just being able to showcase the different restaurants, the different bars, being able to bring business to them. I guess just trying to figure out a way to do that without the city having to spend $50,000 each year on it.
Well, I think without the fireworks, when you talk tents, tables, chairs,
Yeah.
stage, band.
Food
you're-
trucks.
Yeah, but they're not a cost, right?
Right, yeah, they were almost nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think you're talking, well, it's definitely less than 20, closer to 15.
Yeah. So I guess if maybe that helps provide more direction from my standpoint too, is like, if we're in that $10,000 to $15,000 per year range, I think that's acceptable to me. 50,000, I don't know if we can do a fireworks show every year.
No.
And I don't think I think they're looking more at the, you know, the street dance is really a big hit.
Yeah.
And they talked about the flags, you know, getting flags on the light poles. But it, you know, I think that, again, we didn't have time last year to get into an engagement with the commercial businesses. And there's some talk, maybe one night there's a multi-day thing, but the spending would just be for the street, you know, the street dance thing. But maybe one day we like be, I don't know, a bar hopping thing. or
Sure.
Whatever, you know.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of getting the community involved and saying, what would you like to have? And having the merchants have some input into it. What would they be willing to support? And
Yeah.
maybe wherever you end up, because we won't have the fire hall, you know, where would the street dance take place? And if I'm one of the establishments, you know, can I move my license to get a temporary location by the street
Yeah.
dance? So I can gain from this, you know, for down at the end by the railroad tracks, by the Lake Elmo Inn, what good is it to the Twin Points or Marma?
Sure.
You know, or
Yeah. And that's where
other
we can
places.
help out
Yeah.
ideally. And
I mean, we're generating ideas right now where we're not really giving feedback to staff for the 250th, like what,
Well, I don't know that there's much we can add for the 250th I mean, my proposal would be, and we did it in less time than last year, and certainly learning from last year, it wouldn't take as much time on my part to pull together the stage, the band, and the tents and tables and chairs. Maybe where it's at, and can we use is there some funds that we could use for that if we keep it in that 15 range? And does not mean that we can't solicit businesses to donate to bring down that total cost, but I guess that would be my ask, if you guys are on board, is can you find us 15K? Can we agree on a September 12th timeframe? That's about when we did it last year. And, I mean, I'll carry the yoke for the 3 things that I did last year. If somebody can do the food trucks again and work with Public Works to close off the street and permit and all that. But I don't wanna do it unless the rest of the council wants to do it.
just so you're thinking, do that as the 250th celebration in September with
Yeah.
what you were talking about.
Yeah, we could add, we could say something in there, we can put up banners on the street poles, light poles.
And then let's say the hypothetical 15,000 that we raise, would that be would that be up to us how we spend that, or would that specifically be towards the band and all that stuff, or would it be like, hey, we have enough money to have a small firework display as well?
Yeah, I don't know that you're gonna get, what was the fireworks last year, chief?
Thought it was right around 18,000.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it
they're
was per
expensive.
minute,
Never mind.
per minute, so if
Yeah.
you, it's gonna be like 3 minutes.
Yeah. No,
Wow,
I was just
they were
curious.
absolutely fantastic.
They were awesome.
But I'm not even going down that road unless somebody is like a big
Donates
benefactor.
18,000.
That put extra stress on the fire department having that all there, and there is that to take
Yeah.
into account.
There's a
I think
great
you're right
learning
here.
experience.
It was great, but I think if we can concentrate on getting the other things in place and working it out with,
I think it just gives people more than likely, we won't have the parking lot to have it in. We will actually have to have it in a street. There might be some coordination on figuring out power for the band and that stuff, but everything else is pretty easy.
This is future discussion, but couldn't we just use the library parking lot?
I don't know. We could ask.
Yeah, just future discussion point,
Yeah.
but.
All right, so you're not thinking anything additional for July 4th except maybe flags? But,
Or, I'm
no,
okay
I want
without it.
flags.
I do-
Seriously,
yeah.
like,
Banners could go out there on those poles.
no, we are a small town. Small towns
Yeah.
have flags.
Administrator Miller, do you think flags would be available for July 4th with your contacts?
We want 250 flags.
Yeah, so, this is something I also thought about, well, we'll have to get permission from Excel. You know, we don't own the poll, so we had to go through their process, but, also because this council is so supportive of community pride, and, I was thinking about, coming up with, having permanent flags out there that represent the city of Lake Elmo outside of, July 4th through September, if you want to keep regular flags up or whatever your time frame is, but
I would love
looking at
that.
something else. So then, me contacting Excelica, if we just, I don't even think, the banner contraptions are already there. Could we have a banner flag or like a flag that tips out? Like, am I asking, because they asked for how it's gonna connect to the flag, or the light.
Well, we're not asking for the big plant baskets that Bayport has hanging from theirs.
Well, that's because Bayport owns them, I believe, right?
No, they
I thought
don't.
they said they did.
No,
Oh,
they don't.
One of them does.
No, they don't.
Because my thought,
Checked.
yeah, so yes, all of that. And even, here's the December one,
Oh,
the seasonal.
Oh,
Here's the
okay.
city one during all other months, and here's the July one. To me, again, I just said it, in small towns, they decorate those things in your downtown area. Like, that is an expectation in Americana, period. And so I literally get comments from friends who come, like, where are the flags? Like, what are you talking about? What flags? We don't have any. And it
Need 'em
dumbfounds
back.
them.
Bring them back.
Yes, so one thing I saw, I was in a different state where their flags on the poles, it wasn't the full flag, I think it violates the flag code, but it was a vertical flag like this. It wasn't all 13 stripes, but because those are the things we hung on the poles last year, the vertical signs, instead of a whole flag that's hanging out. It was a representation of a flag in that shape, probably using a similar style, but yeah, I'll defer.
Yeah, I have a vendor, the city of Hugo has nice city banner signs, so I'll contact the vendor and say, what do you do for the American flag? Can you have a banner, or do we need to look at something else? So I'll take that on, all the flags, banners.
So,
But I need a little bit more direction on, is the council gonna form a committee to work with, community orgs and businesses, or what else is?
I don't know if we need a committee or if I'll just take the marching orders and start calling people. But I'm welcome all in any help.
I got food trucks. I can take it again.
There we go.
I have more time to get better food trucks this time too.
And the food trucks, they did have minimums and we met them, so we didn't have to pay anything.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if we don't meet minimums, then there is a cost, some of them.
Yeah, there was minimums for some that were like 1,500, but it was really easy to meet those with how many people showed up.
And we have more time to advertise now
Exactly.
on, prior to.
Okay. We don't gotta worry about flyovers or any of that stuff.
No.
Oh, I was really hoping for that. I'm just kidding.
Is it, can I get a?
Yes.
Is that?
That sounds
does
great.
council,
Send us the bill in a couple months for the up to 15 appropriation.
yeah.
Let's just say approximately 15. I hate to be at 15, 120.
Approximately in that ballpark, but I think that's doable.
And flags.
And plus the flags.
Plus the flags. That's outside the 15.
All right,
Yes.
move on.
Because it's not gonna be cheap.
Council reports. Councilmember Dragisich.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to look through the city's financial policies, and I would like to suggest that 7 weeks from now, we put this on a workshop agenda. Because it's about 7 years old, and there's some things in there I think, that we should address. For instance, the current policy allows the city administrator to approve a construction change order on a project up to $100,000 without any council approval. And there's, that's in there, and then there's leasing, they can lease equipment, and all lease agreements can be done without council approval. And so I think, it's not a backwards, but I think we need to take a look at the policy and talk, do we really want to allow, the administrator to approve a $100,000 expenditure without council approval?
I've never seen a change order. I've seen.
It's in the
all
policy,
cha-
whether it's been
yeah,
used or,
all
I
right.
mean, I'm just saying, look, we can go
All
through the
right.
policy and make corrections
Sure,
like that to it.
that's fine.
To make sure it's clear and concise and up to date. And,
So let's put that on the,
Mayor and council, I have added that for the May workshop.
okay, thank you.
It's on the future agenda tracker
Okay,
as well.
thank you. Appreciate it. Councilmember Holt.
I was gonna give a thank you to Rock Point Church. It was in the consent agenda, but they are volunteering their space to be a election site for future elections. And it's a logistical piece for them. And to me, that's serving the public, it's serving the community, and so thank you to them for doing that. It's a great site, it's a beautiful facility, and kudos for their public service.
Thursday, I will be representing the city of Lake Elmo at the House, it's a Finance Committee, right?
Yeah.
House Finance Committee trying to secure some funds to help us with the obligation of payment at 36 and 17 intersection to reduce the burden of the residents here. So, wish me luck.
No report.
No report.
No report.
Staff,
No report.
No report.
Just quickly, next week they'll start tearing down the old Lions Park playground. So we'll see some changes down there. The new one will go in fairly quickly, it'll be about 2 weeks, so we'll have it done by Mother's Day.
I didn't see that on the annual report. Pete?
No report.
No report.
No report.
All right. Adjourn the meeting. Thanks.